States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do not have a report out of closed session this evening, so I'd ask for a motion to adopt our agenda, please.
So moved. Second.
Carol and Peggy, are there any changes or additions to the agenda?
No.
All right, then vote on the agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. We start tonight with the recognition of our distinguished school for Thurston Middle School. Is Jenny? There you are. And the front row. So,
Am I doing something?
Just introduce your team here.
yes, you're doing something.
I got a whole. Do you guys want to come up here? Okay, so this is Brad Rush, our school psychologist, Lisa Brackes, assistant principal, Amanda Vanderveen, counselor, Nancy Morrissey, counselor with her purse, which is, if you guys only knew how funny this was, and Darcy Anderson, social studies teacher. And quite honestly, these are just a few of the hardest working staff that we have here. They're amazing, they're tireless, they work above and beyond to support each and every one of our students on our campus. Am I supposed to say anything else, or?
Well,
I can go on.
Jan's coming up here.
Oh,
Take it for your front office.
Thank you, thank you.
We're extremely pleased, obviously, when our schools get recognized for the work that they are doing. And we know that you work diligently to achieve our goals and to provide the best preparation for our students when they move from middle school to the high school. And we are so appreciative and delighted that you had this recognition. Thurston has it again. And the other recognitions that I know that you work on those and work to get the recognition that you deserve. But also with your staff, and I thank you all for coming tonight. But it's just, I know with our continuous improvement and every student every day, and we worked on the connections, the teacher connections with the students that we really recognize were so vital. So I think this time more than in the past, it's really a deserved award. I know that the staff at Thurston has worked very hard. That's a difficult set of years, those 3 years, and
Easy.
very.
We wouldn't even use that.
Well, when I sat there, I didn't find it easy. 8th grade was like, no, please. We love it. I love to do the right people at the right place because it takes that special person to work with that age group. I mean,
Thank you.
and did you have anything you wanted to highlight from what you focused on for this?
You know, we really focus on building our relationships at Thurston and realizing how important it is that kids want to come to school each and every day. And I think one of the things that our staff has done is gone above and beyond to make those caring, connected relationships with our students. And it's just giving of their time above and beyond what they do. This year we implemented our Web Wednesdays, and they are so much fun. Dr. Keller has been up a few times, a winner with one of our 8th graders, a little competitive. But it's just been it's another great thing that our staff does to make those connections with the kids on our campus, so that they want to come to school.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just thanking the team. I know that the application, and I know Randy was a part of that as well. Randy Barkley's not here. It takes a lot of time and hours, but really what it is attempting to do is put into a very concise document all the work that you guys do day in and day out in your classrooms or in your offices with counseling. So, again, well-deserved award. I recall back to one of our first meetings we talked about how some kids, the surveys were saying that the kids said you guys didn't necessarily care as much as you thought you cared about that. And I've seen that change over time. It's been a relentless effort for you guys to really engage your students and show them how much you do care, how much you're working to make them better students.
And their morning announcements.
And their morning announcements.
We care today.
We care today. So, but again, this is not something that all schools get. This is something that really schools that meet a certain criteria receive. And kudos to you for meeting that and all your work that you do.
Thank you.
Next we have a session for public comment on non-agenda items. So if you, there I have one card from Lisa, Suziak.
Good evening, board. I'm Faisa Zuziak. I actually do work at Thurston, so I just want to congratulate Jenny and our team. They are amazing people to work with. But one day a year, I'm the official meat day manager for the Trophies Invite, which is one of the largest meets in California. It's also become one of the most prestigious meets, and it creates some of the fastest times in early competition at the beginning of the season. We now have pretty much maxed out what the meet can handle with 4,000 people. So our sign-ups sign up very quickly, and we are full way before the meet even starts. It takes a year to plan the meet. We've already started planning for next year. We had 7 records broken this year, which was one of our highest. It was a perfect running day that day, so a lot of records broken. We had a pole vault record broken, so if you don't get to see pole vault, that's a day to come out because we have some of the best in the state and out of state there. We had quite a few runners from our own school that competed very well. Ryan Smithers got a 6th place in our Eric Holtz 3200, which is the memorial race, and out of that race, we get at-bid larges to Arcadia, which is one of the national meets, and if you win there, you can go on to the Nike. We got 6 at-large bids this year, so we keep getting more and more. The meet ran beautiful that day. It's the first time since I've been with the meet in 9 years, we did not get a single phone call to the police department. We did not have any neighbors come over doing this. Why are you singing the national anthem at 7:30 in the morning? We had no cars towed, and I'm gonna say that had a lot to do with Mr. Billinger and Corporal Korn, and the city. The city has been working the last few years with us just marvelously. We all met twice with the rec department, the planning department, the police department. I mean, we all sat in a room twice together and just talked about what the needs were and how to make it run smoothly. So our shuttles worked better this year, and Corporal Korn and Officer Forrest were there from 6:30 in the morning with me till 6 o'clock at night. And we had a lot of local people. Why are the police here? It's like, I'm just here to have a happy presence. And I have to say I was really touched because they were out on the field with the athletes most of the time. And a lot of kids would come up and engage with them. And I was hearing Officer Ferris having a long conversation to an out-of-state student on what it took to get into the police academy and the steps you have to take and what to do while you're in high school. And I just thought that was touching. There you are at a track meet, a huge track meet, and they're taking the time to let the kids know we're here for safety, but we're also here to talk to you. Don't be afraid of us. No ambulances this year, which was really nice. So the safety worked out. We keep refining that every year. And I'm also happy to say that this is my last report because I retired after 9 years. I figured my son's graduating from college, so it's time to pass it forward. But I feel like I'm leaving it in really good shape. We just improve every year. So just support the, I really appreciate the districts, and Steve and Tommy do too. And we really appreciate now the support of the city because it shows our city well. It really does. That's what everyone talks about. So thank you.
Is there anyone that wishes to comment on an item that is not on our agenda? Case card.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
Hi, Sherry Morgan, and I'm here to ask for talk or comment on our students and their social and emotional well-being and their social and emotional health. It's a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. I've talked about it for a long time and all the different impacts. We've got a phenomenal person at our helm that I respect quite a bit. And I did want to add that at the last meeting, there was Mrs. Honeycutt had nothing but high regard for all of the activities that she had been involved in that week, and one of my kids was also involved in those. And I do want to thank the district for all of the wonderful opportunities that our kids have, because that does not go unnoticed, and I am very appreciative. But one of the roles that I have had in this community through the years is a watchdog and a whistleblower, because people know that if given the information, I'll find a way to bring it to the attention of those that need to hear it. And it just so happens that tonight's a good night. Because a bell schedule is floating around the school, a lot of the kids have seen it. It's crazy different. I don't even know if most of the parents here, I know that most of the parents here haven't seen it because I just got a very perplexed look. And this bell schedule is crazy. It's got all kinds of colors. It's got a 0 period that starts at 7:15 in the morning, and it's got a 6 period that's 2:18 in the afternoon until 3:30. Now I can only assume, and we also have discussed the word assume, that 6th period is athletics, and that 0 period is for an extra academic period if an athlete would like to take one. So if this is true, if my assumptions are true, what happened to putting our students first? Because if you're making academics a 0 period option because 6th period is athletics, then why are you penalizing athletes? 68% of our students are athletes. That means that many percentage very likely might be taking a 0 period at 7:15. And isn't the whole purpose of starting school later to reduce student stress? What are some of the statistics I was given? With an extra hour of sleep, teen suicide reduces by 11%. 67% of our students are athletes. Why would you make 0 period be the option if they take a 6th period? 6th period is 4 days a week. School's supposed to start Mondays at 9. And this isn't necessarily final, but it's definitely being shown to a lot of students because a lot of people have seen it, but I know the parents haven't seen it. And this isn't just let's add a few minutes here or there. This is a dramatic shift. You have a rotating block schedule, which is a brilliant idea. I know Denise Pope is a big fan of it, more so than the calendar. But you have a problem, and you need to address it. A rotating block schedule doesn't have a fixed 6th period. It has all schedules rotating, so they only miss one class every couple of weeks. 7:15 is not a solution. It's band-aiding a problem and pushing your own agenda.
Anyone else with a comment on a non-agenda item? So next on our agenda are reports, and we begin with our student reps.
Thank you. Students are working hard to finish off second semester after a nice spring break. We have a Top of the World spelling bee for both Top of the World and Almoro. It will be held at Almoro Thursday evening. The Angels players will be visiting Top of the World this Thursday. Before break, Thurston Middle School had great success with their passion projects and the 6th grade oral history projects. Thurston is also focusing on their Web Wednesday, which will take place tomorrow. And Web Wednesday is just a series of minute-to-minute games that will be held in the black box where everyone can connect. At the high school, AP students are working hard to prepare for their AP tests early next month. This year's prom theme and tort will be announced this Friday at break. We recently just held our ASB elections, and the ASB president will be Luke Goldstein, senior class president will be Sam Jojo Seb, ASB vice president will be Kalohe Danbara, PEP commissioners will be Aiden Booth and Brooks Hogenauer, junior class president will be Keller Kramer, and the treasurer will be Alex Chang. Speaker Tyler Durman spoke to the senior class last Friday. He just gave this inspirational speech of anecdotes and wonderful inspirational stories about just getting through, the transition from high school to college. He told that's why I had to just things always get better after, emotional turmoil, especially now for seniors. For Breaker Athletics, we hosted the Wave League track and field prelims yesterday, which will be followed by the league finals this Thursday at LBHS. The track and field season has been very successful. Our boys 4x1600 meter team of Ryan Smithers, Sebastian Fisher, Logan Brooks, and Matteo Bianchi set a national best time at the Arcadia Invitational in a race that qualified them for nationals in June. Boys tennis placed second in Wave League to qualify for the playoffs, and both baseball and boys volleyball teams are battling for playoff spots at the games at LBHS this evening. Our girls and boys swim teams are also in league finals this week, battling for individual CIF placements for each event. Our girls and boys lacrosse teams had successful years this year and are building for future successes. Girls sand volleyball can be seen down at Main Beach regularly playing. Their best competition in Southern California has to offer this year. And our girls surf team won their second consecutive state championship. Thank you.
Which one of you will be casting the votes this evening? Are you gonna?
I will.
You will, okay, thank you. We have our bargaining unit reps, and we start with Lubuka and Sarah, please.
Okay, first of all, Labuka has sent several teachers from each site to the Good Teaching Conference that CTA sponsors, and it's taught by teachers, and it provides teachers with lessons that are ready to use and they can take back to the classroom and implement. And that was received with a lot of positive feedback from the teachers who attended. I also received an email from CTA and NEA about they are asking for funding for the National Memorial to Fallen Educators. And presently they have 129 names on this memorial. And which is shocking that we even have to have a memorial for that. And excuse me. And what they're also looking for as part of their funding is they want to have additional mental health services in order to support the prevention and provide education to our students rather than reacting to the next tragedy. So, and in that they list psychologists, counselors, social workers. We also happen to have Officer Cornelius to help with that education too. So I am really grateful that our district has provided that already for us, because we know that several, teachers unions have, that's been one of their platforms that they have had strikes over. So it's really nice to have our students supported when they're with their social and emotional support. And I think Dr. Gloria, you brought a lot of that to the district. So, and I interface with a lot of those people, and I'm really grateful we have them. So also we are making our rounds to all the schools on our Labuka luncheons. And we are for membership engagement. And so we are gaining input from teachers and discussing different ideas and things interests that we need to talk about with them. And I've really been impressed with all the thought exchange and the solutions that teachers have come up. And when I've thought about I've had more time to think about it and whatnot than they have, but so many great minds come up with so many great solutions. So I've really been impressed with what our teachers have come up with, and I'm doing that. So I've gotten around to the middle school, the high school, and I have yet to get to the elementary schools. So to be done. And I also want to thank you guys who participated in negotiations, because I know that those are really, I think they're very stressful conversations, and to get everything out there, it does take a lot of courage. And this is a quote that I thought is very fitting, given what we all have to deal with, or I don't, but you guys all do, so I appreciate the both sides that do this. That both sides of our negotiation tables have demonstrated leadership, that we don't avoid difficult conversations and situations. We lean into vulnerability when it's necessary to do good work. So I really think that you guys have been, having to do that, and I know they're not easy, so I appreciate everyone's efforts on that.
Thank you. Margaret for CSEA.
Yes, well, on that note, my first thing here is that we are in full swing in negotiations. We technically have one more day left, and we're proceeding along with our articles that we have opened. And again, it's open dialogue and discussion and informative on both sides of the needs on both sides. So very positive moving forward. Another positive note, we have our scholarship basket going around to the different sites. This is when we try to get a little bit more money for our scholarships for our graduating seniors of classified employees, not only in our school district, but outside our school district, because we have opened it up knowing that not everyone who's a classified employee here can live in Laguna Beach. So this is a program that started a couple of years ago and we're excited about it. May 15th will be our recognition party for our classified employee of the year, so we want to remind you please to put that on your calendar. You will be getting invitations to that. On another subject, Ms. Winston has really been this leadership academy that started and was cultivated in the idea of cultivating our own members of the Laguna Beach Unified School District. I'm involved in it and have had many things in leadership, but every time we're learning more things that are opening up for our own employees to take on roles. And in that, I just completed the Laguna Beach City Leadership Program and received my award at the City Council meeting last Tuesday. A totally different program, more knowledge-based, and this is really learning who you are and learning what you're about so that you can be a strong leader. So I want to thank you for that, Lisa. And that's my report.
Thank you. Board members, anything you represented us at?
I represent the Fiscal Management Committee. We met last on February 13th. We will meet next between May and June, and as of this morning at 8 o'clock, Jeff and I were talking about issues concerning that. So Jeff's going to make a report, I believe, later about the budget and where we're at.
I attended School Power Endowment, and it was fun to look at the teacher grants. Several of the members are going to go out and meet some of the teachers and talk more about their proposals and get some clarification.
I have no report. I attended PTA Council and they're getting ready to finish up the year. They've had their big fundraisers. They raised a lot of funds and report on what they're doing at their sites.
Can you hear the president
Can you hear?
back?
Yes. And that's it. I also was at the endowment meeting and they had a longer meeting than usual. They were really working hard. That's it, Dr. Gloria.
I just want to thank staff, especially at the sites. This is the busiest time of year for our folks. They're wrapping up the current year and in the throes of really planning for next year. You know, we're closed up our books here in terms of our POs for all of our purchasing. So the business staff is very, very busy. And now we kind of start into that next year as well. So we've got a long runway after spring break here to the final bell at the end of the year. But I just want to thank them in advance for all their hard work because I know it can be a very challenging time for them. So thank you.
We have next on consent calendar and the
Russell.
sorry.
Make it easy. No report.
We have our auditors here this week for your audit, so thanks to all the departments. It's not just the business department that takes part in gathering the audit documentation, so it's busy, but it is fun, and we're gonna get through it.
They spend the week, correct?
Yes.
Dr. Depot.
Thank you. 3 quick announcements. First, Hector Mesa is joining us for the third parts of our third series for DLAC. Coming this Thursday, we will have English translation available. FanCon, if you haven't seen, is coming to the high school, 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock this Thursday, the 25th. And then Denise Pope, if you hopefully you saw the banner outside, will be here May 1st. So we're so pleased. Thank you to School Power for their support and PTAs and volunteers.
Are we putting those at the school sites also?
New banner, no, we only ordered one.
Yes,
Yes, but there have been flyers and going on principal blast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, consent calendar, excuse me again for skipping it. We have a motion to approve these, other than what we need to pull off, and I know we need to pull off the minutes. For Dr. Kelly, any of the other items, B through I, board members need to pull. And I'd like a motion, please, for consent calendar items B through I. So,
Second.
Carol and Peggy, were there any brief questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0, and now we need a motion to approve the regular A1, the regular minutes of March 26th meeting.
Oh, second.
Peggy, all those in favor?
Aye.
and we have one abstention. A motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting of March 18th.
So moved.
Second.
And all in favor?
No, there's an error on that.
Pardon me, there's an error, okay.
My name's listed as far as voting number on page
Which page are you on?
page 25.
Thank you.
Okay,
I voted yes to adjourn, but I wasn't there. I was with you though.
okay, thank you.
Good catch.
So all those in favor is corrected? Aye. And opposed and abstention. Now we move to our information items. Our first item of this evening is clarification and review of policy and practices for weighting grades at LBHS. This item is on the agenda as is requested by the Morales. It is not an action item. It's coming as a information item to follow our procedure, which is that item coming from the public comes through the board, and it comes as an information item. The public will receive public input, and then the board may ask questions and have a discussion among ourselves. And out of that will come any direction to the staff for requests for more information, to answer brief questions, and to figure what direction the majority of the board of green will take, if any. So we'll begin this, the background information is the information that was provided by the community member. It was not provided by the district staff as it was submitted. This is the information that was submitted to us. We are trying to make it clear that we will follow the procedures for public items, the items coming from the public to appear on the agenda, because that's been a concern. Susan Hunt, I have all the cards here for speakers on this item.
Actually, my son, I think is gonna speak, he made it.
Okay, so that's instead of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last minute change.
Okay, thank you.
There's another card.
You all see And I should remind you that we have 3 minutes, so please pay attention to the timer, and hopefully we'll finish within 3 minutes.
This is a statement I wrote in conjunction with another senior, Kate Gillis. I'm also a graduating senior. Members of the school board, as 2 graduating seniors who have consistently enrolled in the most rigorous courses offered by LBHS, we encourage you to reinstate the grade point weighting of honors courses. Yes, high school students should only take advanced classes in which they have a genuine interest. However, many times that interest is obscured by the standard class. For many students, the subject matter of a particular class can only be intriguing if presented in an advanced manner. A significant number of students discover their desired collegiate path through high school classes. Unweighting honors classes hinders the development of that passion. The stripping of the increased grade point indisputably diminishes the appeal of honors courses. By lessening the students' motivations to challenge themselves, many upper-class advanced placement classes become gated. Students may find breaking into the paths of higher-level math, science, English, and Spanish unfeasible without an honors foundation. Of course, those AP classes truly matter in the college admissions process, but without underclass honors courses to initiate those pathways, capable students may remain stuck in standard classes. Of the over 220 graduating seniors of the class of 2018, only around 11% plan to attend a UC school. Therefore, the alignment with the UC weighting system seems almost arbitrary, given that nearly half the class of 2018 plan to attend an out-of-state or private California university and would have been disadvantaged in that pursuit by the current rule. Granting honors courses the heavier weighting not only strengthens students' college prospects, but also allows students to discover what subject areas matter most to them. To accelerate students is to allow the potential to succeed. Thank you.
Terry Meisberger.
Hi everyone, as you know, I'm an 8th grade parent and the parent of 2 Laguna Beach graduates. It's really hard to put a stake in the ground when the ground is consistently moving. Laguna tried, so did others. Many have since recognized that the information has changed. They owned the shortcomings and made it right by redacting unweighting of honors courses. The purpose of honors courses is to increase rigor for the student and to prepare them for the next level AP and college coursework. It allows students to explore areas of interest. In fact, the weighting reduces stress. Laguna is aligning with UC standards, even though 87% of students go to non-UC schools. Laguna removed honors designation from geometry. This means universities will never look at it as an honors course and recalculate this course with a weighted grade. Laguna took their rigorous honors courses in subjects that are core subjects and unweighted them. Why would Laguna send the message to the universities, even UC, that our honors courses have offered for years are not rigorous enough? This is the message we're sending now by removing the grade weight. Highly selective UCs, Berkeley, UCLA, include uncapped weighted GPA and they weight freshman year in their admissions too. Private schools also do this. Laguna now limits freshmen to a maximum 4.0 GPA, even with maxing out on the so-called honors classes that used to exist. How does this present our kids in the best light for private schools and out-of-state public schools? And yes, even Berkeley, UCLA, and Cal Poly. Neighboring districts, high schools still offer weighted grades and a plethora of UC approved and non-approved courses in core subjects. They recognize the value of allowing a student to present themselves in the best possible light to colleges. This allows students to make the initial cut in the admission review process and hopefully get to the next stage, which is the holistic review. Weighting honors courses presents students in the best possible light for merit scholarships. Most only look at transcripts, and yes, even Laguna Beach High School scholarship applications are self-reported weighted GPA by the students. I urge the staff and the school board to let students out of the dark and allow them to shine in the light before this policy does irreversible damage with the class of 2020 and beyond. This policy lowers students' GPAs at least a quarter point, in some cases a lot more. I hope that you will add this to the May 14th agenda as an actionable item and vote to reinstate the honors geometry and all honors grade weighting retroactively, whether or not UC approved, and continue to add weighted honors classes as staff deems necessary. Again, let's focus on the 87% of our students, not the 13. Thank you.
Monica Golden.
Can we defer later, is that possible?
Yeah, I
So
know.
sorry.
Since I had a card memorized, I thought she was here.
Laura Sexto?
Good evening. I want to just kind of mirror what the two previous speakers have said, in that I think there's some concern around why we would disadvantage our students and not be commensurate with the rest of, a majority of the rest of the schools in the United States, the high schools, why would we flag our students as not being on par with what those schools are doing in terms of grading. And then one of the other topics that we had discussed was, why would we disincentivize our students to seek out higher learning education experiences? And when we do that, it essentially waters down the entire academic experience for Laguna Beach Unified School District. Thank you.
Scott Woodard.
Like, several of my points have already been made, could I defer my time to another speaker that might need a little additional time?
You can just make your comment that you share the same feelings that have been expressed,
Share
but
the
not
same
to pass
feelings
on your
as
time.
several of the other speakers previously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy Kramer?
Good evening. As of now, we have 375 petition signers to our petition to reinstate the honors course grade weight retroactively. This includes parents, students, and community members who are just as concerned about the elimination of the grade weights. When the task force met, they had just a couple of meetings and voted 3-2 to eliminate the honors course grade weight.
starting with the class of 2020 and beyond, and for many reasons, many that have been stated, I find the original research was not sufficient enough to make such a bold and detrimental decision. Some colleges do not recalculate GPA. In fact, 51% at least do not recalculate and will take the GPA provided straight off the transcript. In a blind study of over 600 colleges, 76% of the admissions officers chose the weighted GPA over the unweighted GPA, even though transcripts showed identical coursework, which is kind of a human nature thing. When you see the transcript that has the higher GPA versus the one that doesn't, you're always going to be looking over at the higher GPA. Giving our students a weighted grade for honors courses allows them to present their transcripts in the best possible light. And we've been encouraging our kids to take the most rigorous courses that they can. And yet we've taken away the incentive, the motivation, and the encouragement to take an academic risk by eliminating the grade weight. And then something I really want to touch on here is information that I've been hearing and receiving and trying to put together is that we have been giving our students internal grade weights, which is fine with me because I have 2 kids that graduated and they received all the internal grade weights and they are in a great university. But there's this weird disparity. Are the existing honors courses rigorous enough or are they not rigorous enough? I've heard that they're not rigorous enough and they don't have UC approval. Which leads me to my next question. So there's just like all this disparity of information about UC weighted honors courses. Are they rigorous enough? I've been assured that they're rigorous enough. And I don't think we really have a clear picture of this. Not only that, I'm kind of concerned that if we are all of a sudden deciding that we're using this UC standard, why didn't we keep the internal grade weighting policy, work in the background on bringing all the honors courses up to UC alignment, and then roll it all out so that no one would be affected by this. So again, there's just a lot to consider here. I feel like we're taking things away from students and we should be giving our students every opportunity to succeed. And I ask that you please add this as an action item to the May 14th agenda.
Thank you. Emile Judd? Emily, I'm sorry, not Emile, I see that now. And now I see the IE is spelled weird.
Good evening. I would like to state that I respect the work that the school board does, even though I do not always agree with their decisions. This is the first time I am compelled to voice my disagreement with a school board policy. The current policy, which eliminates honors course grade weighting, is unfair to our honors students, puts them at a disadvantage when competing for limited spots at universities across the country. It discourages students from challenging themselves with honors classes, and adds stress to students taking honors courses for fear those classes may result in lower grades and thereby lower GPAs than students taking less demanding classes. I have 2 students who attend Laguna Beach School. Both are negatively affected by this policy. My 11th grade daughter has taken many honors courses at high school, worked hard to get A's in all of them, and yet her GPA is lower than her peers taking honors classes at schools in surrounding school districts. It is these students that she is competing with for limited spots at colleges across the country. GPAs should not by themselves define students, but they are used by colleges and college coaches as a shorthand way to decide whether to further consider a potential student for a spot at a college or on a team. GPAs do matter. The whole point of grade weighting is to fairly compensate honors students for the advanced material and quantity of work demanded by honors courses. The current policy unfairly lowers LBUSD honors students' GPAs and hampers their ability to compete against students in other districts who are receiving the weighted grades. I also have a son finishing up 8th grade at Thurston and considering which classes to take at the high school next year. The current policy discourages him and other hardworking students from taking the more challenging honors classes for fear of getting a lower grade in the more challenging class. On behalf of my 2 children and all the other students challenging themselves and putting in the work demanded by the honors courses, I respectfully request that you reinstate grade weighting for honors courses in our district, level the playing field with other school districts so that LBUSD honors students can fairly compete. In closing, I would like to remind the board that we live in an environment where parents are allegedly unlawfully paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to secure spots for their children in universities across the country. We are requesting that LBUSD students be able to fairly compete for those spots based on their hard work and accomplishments, and that honors course grade weighting be retroactively reinstated so as to not harm any of our students. Thank you.
John Morelli?
I just want to say a few things about the whole disincentivizing the children, and I think that the kids have made it very apparent. I have a son in 8th grade, and his sisters have all taken honors classes, and one of them is a sophomore in college now, and she's doing great. She was accepted to a few UC schools, but she chose to go to another school out of state. Was probably accepted there because of her weighted average, which was higher than a 4.0. So I feel like my 8th grader said, why should I waste my time? Why should I bother? I mean, if I can get an A in a regular class, but I might get a B or a B plus in an honors class, why waste my time? And he's right, which is sad that an 8th grader can see it, but adults are all clamoring over whether we should change it or not. It makes absolutely no sense in my mind. I grew up, my parents always said, work hard, you can get a scholarship, you can do, but you know what we've done? We've nipped that in the bud because scholarship money is absolutely on the table now. Because what we're doing is we're causing these kids to not take weighted classes, or classes that aren't weighted anymore, and therefore they're not going to be, when they go up against other schools and other kids that have 4.3s, guess who's going to get the scholarship? And I don't want my kids to get scholarships. I don't have a problem paying for their school, but I do want them to have an incentive to feel like, you know, if they push forward and they do get somebody to help them along the way, maybe mom and dad have a little more money to help them with a house someday or something else, but it's work for them, which is great, and it's motivating for them. I think we are doing a great disservice to our kids to take this off the table. Our sophomore in school right now is just, I can't even explain to you how hard she works in honors classes, and now she's like, for what? For what? So that a bunch of adults can rip the rug out from under her and tell her, by the way, you know, this isn't really going to matter anymore, so don't even bother. Because that's what the message it sends. And I think we're sending the wrong message. I think if we just look at it from that standpoint, we need to rethink it, put it back on the agenda. One other thing is that we, as a group, we've all asked for information, and it's been, I don't want to say pulling teeth, we've gotten some information, but I know that when the board asks for information, they get the information. They don't have to go out of it. This is your job, this is what you do, I get it. For us, it's a lot more difficult. And you've already got the information, made decisions based on the information. Now we're backpedaling and trying to get the information to recover from what we feel is a catastrophe. So I hope you put it back on the agenda for the 14th.
Vicki, is it Cambrusi?
Yeah, I'm to follow Monica Golden, so I'm gonna defer to.
Kimba Ramanian?
Kian.
No. Kian. Okay. Say it. It's Kian, not Lamb. Sorry.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kian Bahramian, and I'm currently an 8th grader enrolled at Thurston Middle School. I want to double major in computer science and aerospace engineering when I grow up at MIT. And I'm doing honors geometry over the summer, so I can do honors algebra 2 as a freshman. And just about 3 months ago, I found out that there's no longer weighting to these honors classes. And I was kind of bummed out because, you know, I think there should be an incentive for somebody who's taking a junior level course as a freshman. And my friend, he's in honors algebra 2 right now. He did what I want to do. And he says that the course is not that easy for him, you know. He did honors geometry over the summer, and the reason that he's still surviving is because the teacher is explaining everything very well, so he can understand. And he does not want to go to a UC school. He wants to go out of state. He wants to go to MIT, like me. I believe that we should be giving these kids that want to go somewhere that specializes, a college out of state that specializes in what they want, we should be giving them the incentive they want, the reward they want. We should not be taking this from them. And I don't want to be rude at all when I say that, but I just don't believe that the decision that was made with the taking away the weights was, in my opinion, a bad decision. Because for my friend, it didn't really give him the push he wanted to take, but he still did it. And thank you for letting me input my opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mark Meisberger?
My name is Mark Meisberger, father of 3, 2 sons graduated from Laguna Beach, one currently in college, one graduated, and an incoming freshman. GPAs matter. A lot of people have already talked about it. Removal of weighted grade policy for honors classes by the prior administration is harming our students seeking to attend non-UC universities, as stated earlier. Weighted grade policies remain in wide use across many comprehensive high schools in California and nationally. Most importantly, many colleges and universities continue to accept weighted GPAs for admission, not only for admissions, but for financial aid, internships, athletic scholarships, and more. Financial aid, as we all know, is an increasingly important consideration as higher education costs continue to escalate for all of us. This policy is negatively impacting college-bound students by lowering their GPAs. It's just math. This is effectively making LBHS students less competitive with high schools that have retained a grade weight policy. The district should reconsider this policy by reviewing the current college admissions and financial aid criteria used across a cross-section of colleges and universities, not just UCs. An analysis of the admission policies of universities attended by recent LBHS graduates, including my own kids, will show a majority of our kids attending schools that accept weighted GPAs for admissions and or for financial aid and other awards. The current policy appears short-sighted when only 10% approximately of college-bound LBHS students attend UC schools. To align with their policy seems short-sighted. Our goal should be to provide the coursework and rigor necessary to provide our children with the best possible foundation to attend college or universities that best match their career ambitions as well as their financial means. Standing here today, it's difficult to understand why this policy was eliminated when it's clear that it disadvantages college-bound students. In a time when college applications are at record highs and competition to attend top institutions is increasingly competitive, it's hard to see any positives from this policy from a student's perspective. Matching our grade weight policies to those in wide use nationally just is common sense. Quick action is required to reinstate the grade weight policy for the benefit of our students and families that you are elected to serve. Our request this issue be added to the May 14th board meeting as an action item and recommendation to the administration to reinstate the grade weight policy as soon as possible. I trust that the board and the administration will properly consider the impact that this policy is actually having on college-bound students, their families, and act in our best interest. Thank you.
Sherry Morgan? Explain it, Mark. Okay, explain that, Mark, so we have a board agree to continue. Sherry?
Hi. So, I'm a little confused, and I support everything that everybody said. When I go back and look at the reason why this policy was put in place to begin with, it states that the board wanted to come in alignment with the University of California grade weight policy and eliminate all grade weighting for honors classes. when I talked to the admissions office of USC today, they told me that they had 65,000 applicants this year. They only admit 6,500. And while they don't just limit it to GPA, they did admit that they will look at all of the applications, and obviously the GPAs that are above 4.0 are going to indicate and identify those that took a more rigorous academic workload and course load. And those are the type of kids that they're going to admit into USC, whether the parents pay or not. But my point being that that's how they start that initial filter. Yes, they want to look at the whole student. They want to look at their leadership and everything else that they want to find as their criteria. But somehow they have to get through the noise of 65,000 students. How are they going to do that? They're going to look at their GPAs. When I went on the University of the UC Systems website and called their admissions office, they confirmed to me that they do recognize honors courses if the school, especially for the state of California, because according to the person on there that I was speaking to, she said, oh yes, California students' honors courses are weighted as well as APs. So incoming California students have the weighted grades, out-of-state students do not. Therefore, we score them differently on their applications when they come in. When we fill out the applications here, we have honors English. You indicate that it's honors, so they see that. And then they go in and readjust the GPA, because they will. They'll go ahead, they'll say, okay, it's out of a 0 to 4.0 GPA when they balance and look at all the kids and try to figure out, okay, who are we going to grade? But they have to start somewhere, and they start with a GPA that is reported based on what they're scored. The last point is they recognize what the schools indicate as an honors course. Right now, you have honors English, for example, sophomore year, I think, right? Listed as an honors course. It's also A through G certified. We celebrate when our classes are A through G certified because it's recognized by the UC system. The UC system will give credit for an honors course that we recognize as honors. It says so in their it says right here online. So why would you not give credit for something that is A through G, that you celebrate being A through G, that the UC systems will recognize as A through G, and give them credit for it? And then tell the community that you don't give them credit because the UC system doesn't recognize it that way. Guys, get out of the dark, because it's all right here. You have to put the credit back in because the UC system recognizes it. Thank you.
Has Monica Golden come to the meeting? Okay, you're out there.
I make a little over, so I respectfully request a little extra time. If not, I'll just have someone else speak the rest of my speech for me. So either way you want me, I'm coming out.
That would be better.
In science, an experiment is a method for testing assumptions. By unweighting honors courses that do not receive UC grade weight, our school board voted to conduct an experiment on our students. The assumption made by the board was that the resulting lower GPAs of individual LBHS graduates who take the weighted honors courses that are no longer weighted would have no effect on their ability to get into college, receive scholarships, or be accepted for internships and summer programs. The board assumed that there would be no effect on acceptance into honor societies, recognition for scholar athletes, and NCAA eligibility. The assumption experiments with our students' futures. The assumption experiments with our families' pocketbooks. The assumption experiments with our students' mental health. Most importantly, these assumptions were made without even discussing many of the possible negative outcomes, and yet the experiment moved forward. The recommendation to the board on the February 2016 meeting recommended that the UC systems weighting criteria be used for our own internal weight. At the time, many of our honors courses weren't weighted by the UC, so these courses were stripped of their weight by LBHS. The assumption was that since these courses don't meet the UC standard, they shouldn't be weighted. However, how many of these courses were even submitted to UC to receive the weight? Much like innocent until proven guilty, these courses have the right to be assumed weighted until proven otherwise. The second justification for unweighting was to create equal opportunities among foreign languages. The problem was a Spanish student had more opportunity to receive weighted honors than a French or Mandarin student. So instead of increasing the opportunity for French and Mandarin and weighting some honors courses there, benefiting all foreign language students, the board decided to diminish the weighted honors opportunities for Spanish. A better strategy would be to put in a plan of action to increase weighted honors opportunities for those languages. LBHS has increased the number of AP courses offered in our schools, and that's wonderful, but that does not matter to this conversation, in my opinion, because students aren't jumping to most AP courses without taking the honors building blocks. And all but 3 AP courses offered can only be taken in 11th and 12th grade. The board did not address how lower GPAs will affect scholarships, internships, summer programs. I kind of went through that whole list already. For example, with the NCAA, it is easier for students with weighted GPAs to qualify for NCAA athletic eligibility and scholarships. The higher the GPA, the lower the athlete's SAT scores need to be to qualify.
Monica, did you have someone else that's going to?
I'd like to give her my time.
Well, we're not doing, did you have
My
something that
next
was?
a little bit more.
30 seconds, is that gonna do it?
No,
Monica, I can finish. We're
Okay.
just here.
Thank you.
We can start here with the NCAA. Okay. NCAA athletic eligibility and scholarships.
The higher the GPA, the lower the athlete's SAT scores need to be to qualify. NCAA Division I and II schools provide more than $2.7 billion in athletic scholarships to more than 150,000 student athletes each year. Weighted GPA is helpful to students and families in need of financial help with college tuition, a concern that creates a lot of stress on those students and families. Weighing honors courses can put students at an advantage for scholarships at places like University of Oregon and University of Colorado Boulder. Oregon's highest automatic merit scholarships is $36,000 and Boulder's highest is $55,000. These are weighted GPAs, no recalculation. Most scholarships give awards based on blind weighted GPA. I say blind because the course rigor is never seen by these scholarship entities. Another assumption is that colleges will recalculate the weighted GPA anyway. From the research I've done, 50% of colleges do not recalculate and use the reported weighted grade from high school. Yet another assumption is that colleges will look at our students holistically. If their GPA isn't meeting the minimum threshold, they won't even get the second look, which there may be holistic. Bottom line, the board needs to stop this experiment that is based on assumptions. The assumptions that our honors courses don't deserve the weight, and assumptions that GPA doesn't matter. Our students' futures and our families' pocketbooks don't deserve to be an experiment. They deserve to be competitive. I asked the board to put this item on the agenda for the next board meeting as an actionable item. As a parent of an incoming 8th grade student, I am discouraging him from taking honors. He's a GATE student, and I'm like, why work that hard to sacrifice getting a lower grade? So unfortunately, he's saying, but mom, I'm saying, no, I do not want you to sacrifice your grade. And that is disappointing for a GATE student that I have to tell him, no, I don't want you to even take a chance of getting a B.
Thank you. Thank you.
David, what was your name? Vicki Cambruzzi.
David Flores?
Thank you. My son is in the 9th grade and he has taken honors English and he got a B first semester. He took honors algebra 2 and he got a B. Now I asked my son, how do you feel about that? And he said, it's not fair. It's not fair that I put in all this work, his students, friends of his, who took regular English, have a 4.0 GPA. It's not right, it's not fair. Aside from what Monica Golden has so eloquently told you, you guys are hurting kids, and that is dead wrong. You hurt my son, you're hurting other kids, you heard a parent just say that she's advising her child not to take classes, honors classes. Frankly, you should be ashamed of yourselves.
Amy Hunthausen?
So I actually wasn't gonna talk today, and I'm probably gonna be pretty brief because I think most people have covered the topic pretty thoroughly. But I have to admit, I have some information I would love to have clarified from the board that I don't understand. Is the issue whether a class is honors level, or is the issue whether the class should be weighted? The reason I'm asking this is that, I walked in the middle of this, I'm sorry I'm late, and my eyes went very quickly to the math section because I'm an engineer and that's what my eyes shoot to the first time. I went, oh my gosh, there's no honors, geometry, there's no algebra 2 trig here. And I've got a kid that I want to motivate to take these courses because I'm biased. So is the question about whether our geometry program and our algebra 2 trig are actually honors level, whatever magical level that is? Or is it whether to give the weight? The weight is obviously there to motivate the kids to take the class. If they're not honors level, what is it that determines that? I mean, my husband said we should actually give everyone 3 extra points for honors classes. He figured that would solve everyone's problems. But I think our goals are all the same. We want our kids to be motivated to take rigorous courses, understanding they need that to work hard, and what does it entail? So I don't know if anyone at the board can answer that question, but, because I don't know the answer. What does the school need to apply to get that designation based on the curriculum, or do we decide, or how does it work? How do you decide if something is honors? And then if it is honors, why not get the extra point? So it's more of a question than a statement. Paul Cantor? Sorry, I was late though.
Paul Cantor?
Good evening. I don't sort of normally do this, but I think bona fides are probably in order. When I was 22, I started a company called the Princeton Review. And that became the largest test prep organization in America. And about 6 years ago, I went to work with, I'm now the CEO of America's largest independent college consulting group. And I have a 16-year-old daughter at home who goes to Laguna Beach High School, who, when she asked me a question about college and I answered, she said, well, what do you know? I think all of the comments come from a fundamentally and profoundly decent place. I don't want to disadvantage my children. I want to make sure they have the same opportunity economically and pedagogically than any other kid would have. I think some of the assumptions might be erroneous, and I'm sort of here to address, without bias, the nature of some of the assumptions that are in play. So there are 2,800 colleges in America. This argument isn't about 2,800 colleges in America. It's about the 150 that are hard to get into. There's only about 150 schools that are legitimately competitive. There are 150 schools where this argument would have weight, would have merit, would hold water, because they are sort of hard to get into. You mentioned USC, our previous speaker. Kirk Brennan, who's the Dean of Admissions there, is my closest friend in higher education, and he agonizes over the number of times that he has to say no to these remarkably qualified men and women. And I've had this debate twice before. The first was when schools decided to get rid of class rank. That was a hard decision because so much of the perception in the community was built around where you sat vis-a-vis your classmates would have a negative impact or a positive impact upon admissions, and the fact that CDM kept class rank while Laguna Beach got rid of theirs or vice versa perceptually gave the CDM kids an advantage and us a disadvantage. And we had the argument, and it didn't turn out to be accurate, but all of the emotions were exactly the same and equally valid. And then, when I went to Exeter and Andover to debate with their faculty, Exeter, Andover, Harvard, Westlake, most of the top branded high schools in America have entirely abandoned the AP curriculum. They no longer teach AP because they felt the tail was wagging the dog. They've also abandoned homework. And when we sat and we were talking with parent groups, all the fear was, well, we are disadvantaging our students in the college admissions game, which is deeply ironic because you're at Andover. So some things that you should know. The average age of people who make admissions decisions is 24 years old. They are not that sophisticated. They are far more interested in whether a kid fits their environment than whether the kid is smart enough to go there. Almost all the kids are smart enough to attend the schools. The first thing they look at is academic rigor, and academic rigor is always evaluated within the context of the school from whence they came. So that's something I think that you should seriously consider, and I think the other piece to remember is that merit-based money is tightly linked to test scores, because that is standardized. GPA is always site-based. So it's a fascinating debate, and good luck with it.
Okay, that was went through all the cards that were submitted. I normally give an opportunity to someone who did not turn in a card if they feel the need to speak.
Thank you. I agree with everyone
Can you
who's
just state your
spoken.
name for the record, please?
Ann Morielli,
Thank you.
pro of reinstating the grade bump. Positive reinforcement is pretty much child development basics. Aside from getting into the college, getting them to take the more rigorous courses now, they need some reward for their extra hard work and the extra effort. Why else would you do it? And if it's an issue with the teachers not being qualified or not being able to teach an honors class, we have some of the highest paid teachers in the county. They can't teach honors classes to compete with whatever the UC standard is. That's kind of ridiculous. So you guys need to really relook at this and remember that it's not a big deal to make a mistake. This is a new board, a new superintendent. It's okay to go back and look at these things and right the wrong. And I have a junior who was the guinea pig for all this stuff, for the bad math program, and now she's kind of behind in math. And I didn't realize that I needed to get her moved ahead and doing other things outside of the school. I thought you guys were doing what you needed to do. And she's got the lower grades because of the non-weighted honors classes that she has taken and worked hard at and had a hard time getting A's too. So what's the point? Do we put in extra work hours and not get paid overtime? It makes no sense. And to focus on the UC students, so say we're being generous in the numbers like 15%, they're a captive audience, so we forget the other 85% and say figure it out. And I kind of feel like now that elementary school students need a private school counselor to help them navigate all these different, you've got to take in 7th grade this math class so you can jump to the other math class. Shouldn't be so difficult, right? Shouldn't be. Not all of us can have, special strings to pull to get our kids into whatever school. Most of our kids have to work really hard. So I just think you really need to relook at this and put it on the agenda item and just do your due diligence. Thank you.
That, I'm assuming, is our last speaker.
There's one more.
Too late?
No.
Got my name on here, can I fill out the rest after I speak?
Sure,
Yeah, we just have to have your name.
Just the name, thank you.
Sorry, spelled in public last second. Good evening, honorable board members, thank you for letting me speak this evening, and first I would like to applaud my wife, nice job, Emily.
Well done.
And I'd just like to add on to her comments, my son this morning said, "Thank you, Mom, I really appreciate you doing this for me." I thought that was pretty cool. But I'm just curious, and I'm kind of late to the game on this, and I apologize for not getting more up to speed. I kind of do some of this stuff for a living, but I'm not that educated on planning. But I just have a question. What was the fundamental harm that was being done by the weighted grades? I don't understand why we're taking that away. And to me, that means there was some harm being done by that. And I don't understand, just assuming what the gentleman from Woodbridge was commenting on was true, I still don't understand. What was the harm of having the weighted GPA? And why are we taking that away? That's all. Thanks.
And now that, the last speaker. So we can begin with, we'd like to start with the discussion. If you have questions that you want to bring up, or that you want answered, direction for the staff.
I'd be interested in knowing, is there a declining number of students enrolled in honors classes? And I'd also be interested in knowing how many weighted honors AP classes have we added?
You turn the mic on?
Oh, sorry.
That's the first. Do I need to repeat that?
Yes, please.
I have two questions. One is, I'd like to know, is there declining enrollment in the honors courses? And the other question I have is, how many weighted honors AP classes have we added?
Honors and AP?
Yes.
I wondered if you could refresh our memory about the reasons why we wanted to, why the grade bump was taken away, so everyone will know what harm that was doing.
The staff's not answering those now.
Right.
They're putting
Right,
together,
right.
so I don't know if the people in the audience are aware.
Is that the only question? That's your only question.
I think it would also be helpful to have just a general presentation about the whole topic. I think we have enough data. I think there's, I feel the pain of the parents and I understand where they're at and what they want to do. I think there's a lot of misinformation I've heard out there, and I think it would be helpful as far as to do a presentation on what's best practices and what we currently know.
It might be helpful also, I know, I still feel the same way I did before. I think the weighting should be there. Would like more information about how that affects scholarships, because I think that's really crucial. The research that I did, it affected them greatly. If you had like a 3.6, you might get a $10,000 scholarship. If you had a 3.8, you might get a $20,000 scholarship. At certain levels, you're just cut off. And for many of our students and families, I think that's really a factor. And I would like more information about that besides all the information I've gathered. I won't say more.
So I support the information that they have. I have a loud voice. Yeah. The information that Jim and Dee are requesting seems to.
Yeah, and the information, can you also, the explanation, because we're kind of, the explanation of how, the standard, we chose a standard to follow, so it's the UC standard. But how then the site would review and work with the UC system to have classes that are approved and not.
Back-end classes.
Yeah, like how that, yeah, and so how that works, so that's, so that everyone can understand it, because I know there's information that comes to us that does not come to everyone else. That would be that'd be helpful, I think. I think I had one, but if you. And then information of how it works. So as a board, we picked a standard that we can work by, right? And it goes on the profile sheet, and it represents us as.
Sorry, we can't hear.
But we want people to understand.
We want them to understand things. We voted on a standard, right, to follow the UC system. But then how the classes, how is that determined? Which classes are within that standard and which ones are not? So that information.
And how that is not board derived, but site based.
Well, yeah, teacher based.
Right, it's a teacher based decision.
Yeah.
Just to qualify, that's more of that's a site based, that's not.
Site-based,
Teacher makes.
sorry, actually, as I said,
Right.
site-based.
And I have a request that at the earliest we do it at the 28th of May meeting, if not later.
No, I had a question that maybe can be answered now, because I understood that some information had been supplied to one of the public records requests. So I don't want however if we talked about putting that information on the district website, so that it doesn't need to be, in a sense, recreated by different requesters, and some of that information was the report of this task force, is that correct?
Correct.
And was that a lengthy report?
I believe it was 174 pages.
Of documents. So that's, that information has been shared with someone in the public.
Correct.
But we don't know who. So what
Ms.
method?
Kramer
Yeah.
so we
So
do
what method would we take then, what would we need to take as a board so that that could be on the website, so we can refer people to that?
We can post all the public records online, that's what a lot of districts have been going to,
Is that something
so.
we have to vote on or to put it in place?
No, we don't vote on it, we can put it in.
Dr. Gloria, when I went in about the Public Records Act and spoke to our district attorney, she assured me they would not go on the website.
Well,
because I wanted to protect individuals' identity, and she said, don't worry, that won't happen.
well, I can tell you that that's just common practice in many of our
That's why I asked
yeah.
her, I saw it on many different websites.
I'll verify with council, but.
So I was given misinformation. If
Well,
we were gonna do that,
Let's assume that, you can ask that.
We can ask that,
Don't-
make it
you don't have
redacted.
to assume that.
We can do redacting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We don't want that.
The Public Records Act, we do redact personally identifiable information.
right, but I was told it would not go on, so then where am I? I mean, do I trust the district attorney and what they told me?
All I can do is refer the question to council. So I can bring that back to the board as a whole, but I can tell you that it is common practice, a lot of cities, if you go into the cities, you'll find that all of them are posted. You'll find that as well in Palo Alto Unified, for example, has all theirs posted, and that's becoming more of a common practice because one, the amount of work that goes into the public records requests is can be enormous, and the intent's not to have redundancy, so it can be shared out publicly so people can access it from that. So, but I will get a legal opinion if that's the interest of the board, and get some clarification for you, Member Perry. So.
And I think it would be probably beneficial for board members to have that information, Lisa, that comes from that task force. So however you wanna do it digitally or whatever, so that we can all review it, because there are two members that were not on the board at that time, although one was on the task force. Two.
No, I was on the task force as a
But
parent,
not
so I was
everyone
on the board.
Yeah. So we need to decide, Member Kelly has made a request that this come later than the first meeting as our constituency was asking for the first meeting in May, but he would like to be here, and he knows he will not be at that first meeting. But I need some clarification. All these questions that I see in question form, would still come without an actionable item. Because I don't think the board can give further direction until these questions are answered.
Without clarification,
Is that fair? Okay.
I support information.
So it would still come back as an information item, but with staff presentation.
Okay.
Is that correct?
So when is the soonest it could be an action item?
First meeting in June if we do it
First
on the
meeting in
24th.
June, if there was
a consensus of the
three
board.
members to bring it as an action item in whatever format that might be. There are possibilities, there could be different avenues to take. It's not necessarily a this or that, is the way I've seen some of the information and some of the answers. So I think the other important thing that I get a sense of from other board members is a little clarification of how courses are qualified. Because I know I've witnessed that some over the years of how they get the A through G, and I know that the work that the teachers do for those submissions, it's really arduous, it's not just a simple little request. So perhaps more information for board members, make sure that there's an understanding of that.
Can I make a quick comment?
You're
not,
no,
you
can't.
This
is our time,
The
sorry.
longer you drag this out,
So, no, you may
the
not,
more you
I'm
are
sorry.
hurting the juniors.
Laguna Beach kids who go to high schools that do not weight or weight according to UC system and their standards. And those kids have, in Laguna Beach, have been accepted into MIT with their same grading system we use here. And they get scholarships and they do all that. And it's important to have standards. It's important to have standards on what this is, and it really is sometimes a wild, wild west. The UC system came up with a standard. And so I know they'll present, but I just kind of wanted to share, because you were not here when we had this original debate. And I think that.
I was not on the board.
And you weren't on board, I
I was not
know
on
you probably had more information from the task force itself, but you weren't on board. And I think that, and the top high schools in the state don't really, in the high school doesn't board them. So I just think that there's not one thing and it's not harm, it's creating standards that are working equally.
So,
Jim wants to say something.
As a former university president and someone who's overseeing admissions in the Cal State system also, I want to continue the conversation that the gentleman from Princeton Review started regarding the 2,800 colleges in the United States and 150 competitive ones, that it is exceptionally difficult to get into 150. The interesting point also, I think, that was made is that the SAT scores matter more than the grade point scores, particularly at these competitive institutions. And it's an awful process, and it's a very trying process. I was talking with my colleagues here about getting in and whatnot, and it's a painful process being on the other end when you see who you can admit, who you can't admit, and who you can give scholarships to, and who you can't. But of those other 2,000 plus colleges, that a large number of them, it's like buying a car. You want to go into the sites and look at what the discount rate is, because a lot of them use these scholarships as a way of bargaining. That's $50,000 college education, but we're going to give you a $25,000 scholarship for you coming to the college. So it's a real political game, it's a real business game, and you've seen it in the newspaper, so it can be a real unethical game.
I have a question that, some of the comments that were made tonight, and I just think there's one, seems, I'm not certain if we have no students any longer that go to community college, but over the years, that number has fluctuated. There was, one year, I remember Dr. Comerhouse speaking with high school PTA, that at that time, the previous year, that 30% of our students were going to community college the first year for a variety of reasons. Could have been financial, could have been they didn't get into the school they really, really hoped to get into, and so they chose to go to a community college and then reapply. It could have been that that was the best course for them, that they had been advised that they, to start there. But I just wonder, I mean, it seems like it's either the 10 or 12 or 15% that might go to the UCs in California, but then it was everybody else other than that is going to a college outside either a private California or to another state. So I'm asking for some information on that as to, I look at those papers every year and I do see a lot of students listed for the ones that surround us. Also, I know that students, if it still is the case, might go to the community college in Santa Barbara, then hoping to get into UC Santa Barbara.
Right.
And so there is definitely that. I know it even happens in other states. So I just feel that I'd like to have the complete picture.
We'll provide the
And
most
that's-
updated numbers we can.
Thank you.
On that.
2018, 23%.
Excuse me.
I just want to make sure people understand, the board's job is to create policies. It's a high level, 30,000 feet job to say, let's create policies that have criteria, credibility, and that we focus on. Every high school in California supports the A through G requirements. That's a UC standard. No kid wants to take a class unless it's A through G approved. I don't think it's far-fetched to say we want to use the UC weighting standard. I think that's a well-regarded, well-respected standard all over the world. You can apply to any college in the world and they'll understand what A through G means.
they'll understand our weighting. Every transcript also gets a school profile attached to it that explains what our school does, how it's weighted. Every admissions officer can see not only your GPA weighted, unweighted, but also your course's titles. So if you think the only incentive and carrot is to take an honors course for weighting, you also take it to say, I took an honors course and it's on my transcript and it shows the progression of mine. I think any college admissions person will agree they look at the coursework. I just want to make sure you understand, we are not experts, we are not administrators. We create a policy to set a standard for the district. And a policy is valuable because it tells our kids there's value in their AP class. And an AP US history may not be equal to an honors English 9, and I stick by that. There has to be a criteria to give fidelity to the policy. And if they qualify under the UC standard, then that's fair. That is site-based. We don't do that here. We do policy. It was done in 2016. I was on the academic task force as a parent with a child from the old system and a child in the new system. And I supported a standard because it didn't appear to have a standard before. It was unclear. Anything named honors seemed to get a weighting. That doesn't seem to give value to the AP courses in particular if everything is weighted just because of its name. So for me, it's about a standard policy that has fidelity and criteria, and that's where I stand as a board member, because I think it's better for kids to say, this has substance and we can back it up with context. So that's just my opinion at this point. I want to get more information to understand it, and I understand your issues because if you're used to the way it used to be, it seems like why does it change? But meeting a standard I think is fair, and since A through G we respect the UC standards, I think there's strength in that. So that's just my opinion right at this point.
Are there any other requests for information or questions from the board?
One of the things that was brought up before was mental health and stress. And if we could have some information about if it causes more stress to not have weighting, or does it cause more stress to have weighting, and what's the number there? If somebody takes just one weighted or AP class, are they okay? If they take 3, is that more? That kind of, so we have some guidance there too.
I'm kind of at a loss how I might gather that information. I could look for some studies, potentially to see. So, I'll do my best to see what I can find.
You didn't mean surveying hard today.
No, I think that's it.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
I mean, you could do that, yes, but that wasn't what I meant.
Okay,
Do the agenda.
okay,
Okay.
all right. Thank you all for coming here, providing your input, and I do want to say I appreciate the courtesy of everyone that spoke, the adherence to the time limits, and based on what the city council recently experienced, I'm doubly appreciative of how polite our speakers were. It's really noted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next information item is the third quarter report of uniform complaints for the Williams case settlement, and Winston?
Yes, this is an information report. It's a regular report that we provide to the board quarterly. We have one Williams complaint during this term and the investigation is in process.
Any questions or comments, or any public comment on this information item? We lost our public.
We lost our public except for the gun sellers.
Any questions? Our next information item is a monthly financial update. Mr. Dixon.
Thank you, President Vickers, members of the board. I would like to first highlight that you will see fairly significant changes to the monthly financial in terms of the look and the amount of information provided. This is our
look was great.
Thank you. This is part of, and thank you to the school board for your support in bringing on the financial consultant Forecast 5.
Right.
They also do instructional consulting for us, but one of the great things that they do is we upload our monthly financial data and they push out these reports automatically. So at a push of a button, we're able to generate this information. We look to update not only our monthly financials, but also all of our budget, first interim, second interim reports as well. So we're hoping this further improves transparency, as well as it's been saving staff time, because a lot of these reports we would not be able to even produce because the amount of time it would put onto thank you very much for your support of Forecast 5. It's appreciated by everyone in the business, and myself, and all the counties as well. So for the first page, you'll see a general fund financial summary. One thing that I would like to point out is you'll notice that we're looking at not just year over year for the entire budget cycle, but we're also comparing the month ending for February for both years. So you can see that last year at this time we projected a deficit spending of a little over 56,000, and this year you see our annual budget shows the negative 2.39 million. That's consistent with our second annual report, and I would just want to remind the board that even though it shows a deficit spending, that is the worst case scenario. So when all of those monies are spent beyond the revenues received, we're still able to meet our financial reserve obligations. Also within that is our transfers out of the general fund to ourselves, being through Fund 17, facility repair replacement programs, and capital improvement programs. So next page, we dive a little deeper into the revenues. You can see percentage of the major funds received. One thing I would like to note at the bottom, when it says projected, that is Forecast 5 projection of where we would be at this point in time in the year. It is not our projection. So our projection that you see in terms of the cash flow in particular from second interim is close, but this is Forecast 5 projection for us. The following page is the same thing, the same information, but as it relates to expenditures from February to February. And the last page would be our monthly cash flow, which is probably one of the most important reports that we should be following. Cash is king, we should always have on hand. That's why we also borrow from ourselves in September and pay ourselves back in December to make sure we have that cash flow. It is not reflected because it is temporary here, so that's why you see on the cash flow report that it dips into the negative in September and October. That doesn't actually happen because that's when we do our temporary transfer to ourselves and then transfer it back in December. And then you'll see all those various fund balances on this page as well. So you have General Fund 01, Fund 11, which is our adult education, Fund 13, Fund 17, Fund 25, and our Fund 40. So please note that the cash flow is a projection beyond February in this report, and again, that is generated through Forecast 5. I'll give you an idea of how close it aligns with our second interim report. The Forecast 5 report projects that in the end of June, we're going to have an ending fund balance of $7.5 million. Our second interim, we projected an ending fund balance of $6.85 million. So it's a little more positive than what we had projected. However, we're very close considering that we're looking at period of health.
And you just took that from which?
The last report
last
on
one?
month ending cash
Okay.
balance.
What page is it in our agenda?
Yeah, that's
The bottom
I
graph.
see it.
the bottom graph,
That's what I
okay,
thought.
so this is the projection out those,
New charts.
the newer numbers down there.
Yes,
This is right.
but they're very close to what our
Okay.
projections are.
Yeah. So this, is taking the place of that sheet that was in the fund balance, it's all tied into this.
Yes, this provides even
Okay.
more information. It gives the visual so that everyone can see. Hopefully it makes it even more clear to the
And
community.
again, when you refer to that deficit amount, if we add up these funds that we provide for ourselves, then
It's almost exactly the same, yes.
What's
It's still
way-
a
what we have set aside in those is way over any deficit issue.
Yeah, oh yes, oh yes.
Any public comment on this information item? Any board questions or comments?
Well done.
I love the new charts. As soon as I opened it, I was like, oh, there's some new stuff going on in this budget.
I apologize if I spoke a little fast. I get really excited bringing in new information.
Well, I'm just really,
Easy to read.
really
Yes.
glad that they like it.
Me too.
Because
Thank you
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, thank you for finding Forecast 5.
This is gonna be
Dr.
done.
Gloria.
Well, I'm really appreciative of, like, I even highlight this in red as a deficit, but it's really not a deficit. So, that's my compliment. It's great, thank you. You have, first action item is item 16, approval of student board member selection process. So you guys are on.
First, I'll just intro and say thank you to our two amazing student board representatives. We met and had a great discussion, and I'm actually gonna turn it over to them and let them kind of take the reins of this conversation moving forward.
Working with Dr. Gloria, Mrs. Weber, Dr. Allman, and the ASB class, we have developed and adjusted the process in which student board member representatives will be chosen. The process is brought to the board tonight for review and approval. The new selection procedure includes more student involvement in the decision-making process without making the student selection a popularity contest. In order to maintain a fair and inclusive process, we will be including the current student board representatives, us, members of the ASB cabinet, as well as teachers and administrators on the interview panel. We presented this process to the ASB class for their review and suggestions to ensure that our student board member representatives will be a fair representation of the entire student body and receive their full support and approval. With our experience in this position, we know the time commitment involved necessary to fulfill this position. And we believe that if there are two viable candidates, that they should share the responsibility of this position. This role is not for everyone, however, we are confident that this new enhanced process will increase the likelihood of finding interested and eligible representatives to serve on the board. We are so grateful to have been included in this decision-making process, and we're both looking forward to our involvement in the interview process and ensuring that there are students who are truly interested in civic engagement, and that they are selected. So, thank you.
Do the two of you want to go through what's presented to us here, the steps 1 through 4, or?
I'm sure. Would you like me just to read it, how, step by step?
Or whatever, paraphrase it.
Okay. So step 1, which Dr. Allman has already completed, is he has presented to all 11th grade students during their history classes about the position and has handed out the applications for any students who are interested in the role. It was important that he went to the history classes because every student is required to take those classes. Of course, that way there's an equal chance that everyone can become student board member representative if they would like. The second step is after the students complete the application, they are then asked to provide two letters of recommendation from staff and a personal statement as to why they would like the position. And then this is submitted to our principal. Once the application deadline has been closed, all students who have applied will be having a first round interview. For the first panel, the interviewers will be the student board representatives, the members of the ASB cabinet, site teachers, and or administrators, so most likely Dr. Allman and a few teachers. The students on the panel should be equals the number of adults on the panel. And then the panel will select finalists for the final interview. And then the finalists from those interviews will then go on to the second round of interviews with the superintendent, principal, executive assistant to the superintendent, and a student representative, one of us.
Thank you.
Or both.
Or both.
Yeah.
This is great practice for internship interviews. You'll do in college, because I have a daughter in college, and she's doing these kind of days where you go. So I just think it's wonderful. So
It's a good
thank you
experience.
for engaging in it, and I feel proud of both of you at all times.
Thank you very much.
So first I need to ask if there's any public comment on this item.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, really.
It's an action item.
And then, any board questions? And then a motion. Before we discuss it.
Good question.
Questions? Just questions, that will not lead into discussion.
I can wait if you want.
Sure, why don't we have a motion?
You should do the motion.
Yes,
I move,
okay, well, Jim moved and Carol seconded. Okay.
we
Now,
need to ask the students another vote.
okay,
Okay.
there it goes.
Thanks. I know that the Senate bill talks about having a petition, and are we okay not doing it in that way?
We're very confident in the way that we've set it out. The Senate is a separate student body.
No, I mean Senate Bill 552.
I'll answer that question.
Okay,
It's fine.
sorry.
So the Senate bill does not require that we use that process. So what it allows students to do is, the board can have its process. If the students determine that they wanted to add an additional representative, they could use a petition process by which to do that. That would be outside of the role of the board.
Okay.
So it doesn't preclude the student body over there to say, we would like to add additional, if that was so desired. And that is a Senate bill that applies not only to boards here, especially applies to community college boards and university system boards as well. Cal State would have a student rep on there as well, that the student body could petition to add an additional representative. That was simply a representative that was selected potentially by them through some kind of other process. But it doesn't preclude them from doing that. It's not in the policy because it's not within the jurisdiction of the board to say we will or will not allow it. It's part of the law. So.
Okay, so it's really for an additional
Correct.
board member.
Correct.
And so I think it's wonderful that you guys are gonna be on the interview committee and that you feel like students are involved. I did call and speak with Senator Connie Laidlaw, who started this legislation because of what had happened in Los Angeles. And she just wanted to make sure that it was really student-driven and students involved, and that you're really having a student voice. And you feel like that? I wondered why there weren't more students on the committee than other people. Like you said, it had to be at least the same number of students. Why maybe it wouldn't be more?
Well, I think it's a role where we have experience in, so we know a student that would be able to fulfill the role. Maybe bringing more students involved who are not fully aware of the responsibility of this role might kind of defer the decision process. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Then I wondered, and I had asked Dr. Gloria if you had checked with other districts about their process or how they did this.
No, that was not a discussion that we had. We simply looked at this process that we had talked about last year that they had gone through and made a determination that they felt the process was really strong and that we were just going to move forward with making revisions to our current process because we feel as though it represents well what our student board reps think is a great process. So.
I agree, I think it's a great process for the students.
I just have a little bit different viewpoint on that, as far as sometimes I think that we can make the best decisions for ourselves here. I know we have approved recently a lot of consultant positions to come in and do things for our district, and I listen to our people say that they need that and that expertise. But over the years, I've often said, I think our people can do it. So it's a similar kind of thing. I think that we let our students, with the guidance of our high school principal, create a process that they feel fits and matches for Laguna Beach High School. That it might be interesting to find out whether other schools do, but sometimes I get that feeling like with consultants that we've had sometimes, where they come for the board things, not that they come in and they're telling us what works someplace else and they don't really know anything about our community. And so I just have a little bit different perspective than you do, that it doesn't make me feel uncomfortable that they didn't find out what 16 other high schools did there, that if they found that some process that's gonna work here and it seems inclusive, what I really noted is that I circled it, all students heard about it and all students get a first round interview, nobody's eliminated on what they wrote in their statement or so.
Right, I like all that, the part that I am talking about are the districts, I only contacted, I think 5 districts. The board was a part of all of it. They were very surprised that our board was not part of the interview process or the end process. They felt that leaving so much to administration was not looking at the whole process.
This is your process, so you can make edits to it as you wish.
They thought it was that the board wasn't really doing their jobs, that we were taking away from what that we should be a part of it.
It's interesting because I would think that we would have less direct knowledge of the people involved, of the students involved, and I really see it as a site level decision, and I trust that process, and Victoria asked if she could since she's involved in this.
Well, I just wanted to say how proud I am of both of them also throughout this process. I mean, I've been here with the student rep process when it was just somebody who was thrown into the position and had no idea what to expect. These two ladies have brought it to a new level. Through this entire process of determining how the procedure would run, they have been thoughtful, reflective, engaged, offering their input and insight. And they're encouraged that this process will promote bringing civic-minded people to the position and not just somebody who wants a resume building opportunity.
Right.
So I'm really proud of you, and I think that your input on this is gonna go a long way.
I'm proud of you too. I think you guys have been fabulous. I just think that the board should be more involved.
Anybody else have any comments, questions, or observations? So we have a motion on the floor to approve this recommended student board member selection process. All in favor?
You're gonna ask the students first.
Yes, well, can you vote on that? Yes, you're correct to vote, please, thank you, Dr. Kelly.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
No. Carries 4-1-0. And I wanna step back because I didn't ask our students if they had anything they wanted.
I did.
You did on the grade
Yes.
rating?
Yeah, I asked Piper, but
So I'm sorry, I should have asked you when everybody was here for any questions or information that you guys would like to see. So, thank you, Dr. Gloria, but I didn't mean to.
Piper and I were able to make eye contact and I said,
Okay.
you wanna add anything, cause she can read lips from across the room, I could tell, and she said, no, thank you.
Okay.
So,
Well, I still, I was remiss in not asking, because I think I wanted to have this better student representation, because I experienced it years ago, and I'm so grateful that you've been willing to commit the time to sit through the whole board meetings and really understand what goes on here. So, thank you. Okay, our next action item, item 17, change the date of the previously scheduled September 10th, 2019 Board of Education meeting.
I'll do it. So essentially, we just need the board to make a decision. As it currently stands, the currently scheduled meeting, we have 3 board members that we know can attend that meeting. We have 2 other proposed dates. On those 2 other proposed dates, 4 can attend.
We had 3 dates and only 3 could attend, 2 of them.
Oh, sorry, you should have done
3
that.
could attend, 1 of them with the potential of a 4th, so there were no days when 5 could attend. And only 1 day when maybe 4 could attend. So we need to look for new dates, that's why.
Or keep it.
Or keep it or cancel it.
Or cancel it.
So the 10th is only 3 people can attend?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. I think I've been sitting in the place where I can attend any of the dates supplied.
I can too.
Okay, so I'm gonna stay out of the discussion and let you guys who can't make it.
Well, that's.
Yeah, no.
First, we need any public comment on this item. Okay, now do we need, well, we have questions, so we need a motion. But we need to identify
Right, we need
something
to
with a
identify.
motion. Correct. So it's one of those cases where we have to step
Can it
in.
just be, I move to discuss changing the date?
Well, I was gonna make a motion that we just keep it September 10th and go with, since
If
it.
2 people can't be there, our policy says if 2 people can't be there, you don't even.
Right, so we would cancel the meeting.
Right.
We have to
Well,
reschedule.
we need 3 for a quorum, so now we have something that says we change
But
it.
the new bylaw that we passed said that Steve, I think, was the one who's.
We need 4?
If 2 people are gone, we're supposed to cancel the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. I'm concerned about canceling at that time of year, that's a
Is
busy
that
time of year.
first? Yeah.
Because we have fewer meetings in the summer, so it's often a really, to go down to just one meeting in September is gonna really load it up.
I'm just saying,
I got it. So what was the date?
policy.
What were the options?
What was the date that 4 people could
I believe it's August 27th, but there was a tentative on that. Dee was not sure
What
if
about
she
the
could.
third?
Third's out,
It's out.
and the 9th's out. Because they're both only 3. You didn't have your full schedule yet, so I don't know.
It looks like I won't be here.
Okay.
So
So
August
they're all out.
27th.
They're all out.
Can there be 4, but Jim can't be here on the 27th?
No, none of them are open.
No, Jim could be here, but Dee was attentive, so we're back to 3 people. Because Dee can't be, wait.
I'm not attending.
That's 4, I'm
The
sorry.
27th, there's 4 people.
Okay. That's, yes.
Yeah,
I was waiting, that's
27?
why.
Then we make a motion for 27. So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Victoria will be second, okay? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, Susan Pratt to the students. You won't be
Yes.
here, right?
Oh.
You're for somebody else to come.
We all vote for other people to come.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's 5-0. 5-0.
You'll miss us, you
It's
know.
5-0?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Action item 18, contract services agreement with the Aspen Group for one-day governance training session for the Board of Education in an amount not to exceed $5,000, with an option to extend the second day of training for an additional $5,000. And presented by Dr. Gloria, or?
Of course, I can handle it. Again, this was something that was brought, request from the board. That's something we actually have as an annual review anyways, and so I appreciate the board. I believe most, if not all, of the board members had an opportunity to talk with the Aspen Group, and if you haven't, I'm sure they'll be working with you to get a date on the calendar soon. They do offer a 2-day opportunity. I think at this point, we've entered into a contract for the 1 day where we can extend that to 2 days. I don't believe we would want to do it the next day.
No.
But we can look at another opportunity down the line if that was so desired, so.
Is there public comment on this item? Any board questions? Is there a motion?
Second, and Buster.
Okay, board discussion. I will ask first, did all of you have a chance to communicate with them?
Yes.
I look forward to it because I think it's really positive to learn to work as colleagues, and I'm really excited to have results. They seem very experienced and knowledgeable, and I appreciate that.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion?
And I think even though that they're international, that they do spend time understanding their local, the local community and the local boards.
Just a point of clarification, and not a decision the board has to make tonight necessarily, because obviously it's not until the end of May, but if there's interest to have cabinet there as well, I haven't had a chance to talk to Randy about that yet, and I will ask him what he prefers. He does have in the contract that it obviously I will be in attendance, but I can ask him if that's an interest. But something for you to consider. We don't have to make a decision now, but if there is an interest, you guys just let me know.
Will this be streamed?
Yes, orally recorded, not necessarily straight recorded.
This is special.
Yeah.
So I would have no problem with the senior staff being involved in this.
I would just say what their experience is.
I'll ask Randy, and then I can let you know if that's his interest.
Because it is
And
on
if he
a
says it's
working
up
day.
to you as
Right.
as board members, then
Or maybe they would attend part of the time, that's a long day for them to have a working day.
I'll check in with him as well. I just wanted to bring it up now while we were on the topic of discussion.
When we've done our protocol meetings, we've had them there, right?
Depends.
Depends.
Yes, there have been times where yes, sometimes.
Any other discussion?
Well, I would think that would almost be left to you to determine, since we direct you, not, right? That we're obviously open to, but you're gonna talk to them and.
I'll talk to Randy to determine, but if you're open to it, and Randy thinks it's a good idea, then I'll have him come.
Yes. That seems good. Okay, all in favor, student vote?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carries 5-0. Action item 19, approved letter in support of AB 1505 O'Donnell relating to charter schools. Dr. Gloria.
This is something that superintendents of Orange County have been discussing with the Orange County Superintendent of Schools. Essentially, what comes out of this bill is to allow local school boards to make the decision if the charter school meets the criteria. And if there is an appeal, it goes to the State Board of Education, not to the county. And the reason is obviously we believe that if it's going to be a charter school that's in our school district, that's going to be utilizing our funding and potentially working with our students, that we should, it has a set criteria, so it's not arbitrary. We would review those charter schools applications to ensure that they have that fidelity if we were to receive one, and determine if the board would make a vote to determine if it meets the criteria. Right now, what we are seeing is, most recently with Newport Mesa as an example, the charter school wanted to fast track past Newport and get directly to the county, and the county approved that on a 3-2 vote. So the Newport Mesa declined on a 5-0 vote. So I think it's an important component. We're simply signing a letter of support that's going to the county through via our county superintendent to Mr. O'Donnell.
Public comment? More questions? A motion from Dr. Joy, and second. Peggy, discussion.
Thank you.
Question?
No one, any questions?
Gonna call for question?
Oh, well,
Before you have the motion.
oh, you made the question. No, I just said.
Since there's no discussion, I'm just
No,
trying
I
to get
just-
poor people home.
It's all right, I'm just supportive of this. There was a very recent series of articles in the LA Times on charter schools, and in some places where they're living in boxes. Student vote please? Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries by vote. Action item 20, approval of teacher on special assignment, TOSA, special education job description. Lisa.
Thank you. So this is a job description we are proposing for next year, to begin next year. And it is, we have numerous TOSAs who support the instructional curricular needs of the district. This would support specifically related, issues related to special education, specifically the implementation of recommendations from the FIGMAT report that involves implementation of program staffing assistance and efficiencies. And so those recommendations are included in the essential duties of this job description. So this would be a 2-year assignment, and the staff member would come from our existing staff members, so there's no new staffing that would be required.
Thank you. Public comment? Any more questions? Motion please? So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any discussion? Great idea. Student vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Vote carries 5-0. Action item 21, approval of independent contractor agreement with Thinking Maps for Path to Proficiency for English Language Learners teacher training in an amount not to exceed $25,775. Dr. Debo.
Thank you. So this is a big training. The request comes from the Professional Development Advisory Committee to offer it for both the 4th cohort of teachers and IAs as an optional professional development. Our intent is to offer it mostly this summer and the final 2 days in the fall.
Public comment? Any questions? Motion please? So moved.
Second.
Cheryl, please, discussion. So how many instructors and assistants do you need in this group?
Our average is about 15. We've had 44 go through.
Margaret Ms. Vickers, I have attended this program and I would highly recommend it for staff and for our instructional assistants. I gained a lot of just basic knowledge of dealing with comprehension and understanding the process.
Thank you. Student vote? Yes. Board members, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Action item 22, approval purchase agreement with Solution Tree for the 2019-20 school year in an amount not to exceed $6,500. Dr. Debo.
Thank you, President Vickers. So we'd like to use the Solution Tree speaker for 2 separate meetings on the same day. First is for our instructor meeting. We have 5 during the school year. The first 4 have been at school sites. We'd like to host principals and assistant principals around continuous improvement, the work we've been doing, and then in the afternoon host teacher leads to continue to support them to develop their colleagues, so build leadership capacity in many of the areas in which we've been working.
For public comment? Any more questions? Motion?
So,
Second. Thank you. Any discussion?
I just have one quick comment. I don't know when pulling it together if it's easy enough to tie them into what the LCAP goals are. So I read them, sometimes I go, oh, what does that mean? Oh, that could hit this and this and that, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Keeps me in my 30,000.
So just so you know, this is goal 1, this is all goal 1.
That's what I was reading.
All goal 1, but yes, that's great feedback, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, but that's what's, I think it's just helpful to keep us.
Thank you.
Student vote? next is board policy second read. These are policies we already approved as first read. Any public comment? We don't need a presentation on this, correct?
Correct.
Public comment? Any more questions? Motion?
Second.
Maybe. Any discussion? And Jim's looking at anything we already discussed it. Why am I?
We can see it
I
in
need
your
to
eyes.
ask. Okay.
So you all on television.
Can I say student vote?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carries 5-0. Action item 24, approval, board bylaws, second reading. These are the ones that we took separately the last time as a first read. So we have 9310 and 9322, board policies and agenda meeting materials. Want to add anything?
No, it's your bylaws.
Any public comment? Any board questions? Motions?
Second.
Any discussion? Everything, I know that, I would just reference looking at the minutes that, Dee had a lot of questions last time on the one policy, so are you? Is all those questions, are they reflected in what's coming as the second read?
The policy, questions on the ones coming up.
Well, I think what we
Which is
earlier,
I
I
think
was
it was
just referencing the
9322, you had a lot
A
of
lot of
questions.
questions.
Item number 24.
Yeah, I've got a lot on that too.
Yeah, but they
We're on
are,
24 right now,
Okay.
and so you had at the last meeting just on 9322, remember the vision and
it's
goals?
reflected in the minutes, so.
Right. I still have, I still have questions and discussion about that.
Which one are you on, so we make sure?
I'm on 9322.
9322.
And part of it,
Oh, it could be the bottom.
It's the battery. It's page 215 is what the start of the, that's the one that the minutes reflected that you had a lot of questions on. And I just was giving you the courtesy of making sure that you felt.
yeah, no, I have questions, I have questions on that. Obviously, I mean, some of you probably have heard from citizens about this one too.
On which, just to clarify, like what paragraph?
9322.
Oh, okay, which section?
Second paragraph.
Okay.
That the agenda shall provide members of the public with the opportunity to address the board on any agenda item before or during board's consideration of the item. The part that I've gotten questions about is the agenda need not provide an opportunity for public comment when the agenda item has previously been considered at an open meeting of a committee comprised exclusively of board members. That part, I mean, even though that's part of the Brown Act, it's looking to people like we are, we have a meeting at 8:00 in the morning where we discuss something, and then they come at night and it's not, we could prohibit them from discussing it. And
Well,
then,
let me just interrupt you, because basically those meetings that we've had are policy workshops, then the policies come as a first read. So they would have every opportunity to comment on it if they chose not to come as a public meeting, just because if they had a work commitment that they couldn't come at 8:00. Just like some people can't come in the evening because it isn't convenient for them, but I think that, I'm not
so
sure.
it couldn't be interpreted that way, because some people are interpreting it that way.
Well, if it's the law, I'm not sure, the reason it's in there is that some bodies, and we don't do that here, because you're not, this is talking about committees. Our special meetings are not a committee.
Yeah, not a
They're a
committee.
special meeting to have a policy workshop. So they don't fit this category. This is if we had a committee meeting on, like say when we used to do the thing with the state park in El Moro, and instead of having two board reps, we had everybody there. We met with the state park officials, and we did the proper thing of noticing it, taking minutes. And then we brought that to an agenda meeting at night to approve whatever we decided on putting out a committee. That's when this says, if we had 10 people speak at that meeting when we were all present as a committee, the State Park Road Committee, I think it was called, Chris, I don't remember the exact title. then we could say to them, you don't need to speak again because you spoke when all board members were present. But we don't
We don't
do
have
that
those
anyway.
committees,
We
yeah.
don't, and that was the example I gave with our calendar discussions. We encourage people to speak all 3 or 4 meetings, even if we could have said what they were gonna say, because it was exactly the same. Because I think we've taken a position to go overboard of making sure that the public feels they can comment. So I would hope that when you get, and I haven't had anybody question me on that, but I would hope if you get questions that you would reassure people that that's the side that we've decided to go on.
Well, then
Is to
I think,
take all the input that,
and we have been good about that, and if people, I think the board president, if people are repeating themselves, you kindly tell them, you know, if
I
you
don't
have
think
something to tell.
I don't think I've told them when they're repeating
They
themselves.
can all repeat themselves.
It's only to
That's
do with
their
time
fault.
limits.
Okay, well,
You've been very generous.
you have been generous. But this is more restricted, so we can do this because of the Brown Act. But it's more restrictive than,
What, I wanna make sure we're on the same paragraph you are on, cause I'm on the second paragraph, where are you now? I just wanna make sure I'm following your thinking.
She's in
I'm
the second-
following that.
Second paragraph, second sentence.
You're still.
Yes,
Okay, I just wanna
that-
make sure,
that's-
okay,
I'm sorry, that is more restrictive. And, I mean, we know that because of the Brown Act, that's part of the provision anyway.
Is it possible there was a legal decision recently
Yes,
that
there
made
was.
CSBA
Yes.
recommend to put
There
this part of
was.
the Brown Act? That's what I think it came from.
There was a violation by some body somewhere, city council somewhere.
Right, so it was actually a legal decision, which I think is listed on the final page. And so CSBA says, to cover this legal decision, we're pulling this from the actual Brown Act book and to put it in. It might not necessarily be your practice,
Right.
but it's clear what the law says. And I think that legal decision is what prompted that addition from the Brown Act itself.
I think though, that it's caused some concern, and the Brown Act also says that notwithstanding any other provision of the law, legislative bodies, local agencies may impose requirements upon themselves which allow greater access to their meetings than prescribed by the minimum standards set forth in this chapter, which is kind of our practice. That's what we've used. Well, I just copied down part of the Brown Act, another part of it. So I'm saying that we could make it, and I think I would like to be less restrictive than more restrictive to the public, which we do, but that isn't what this says.
But the legal decision is protecting us by saying that, I mean, it was recommended to us by legal and CSBA to add that to cover it, so that we know we don't practice that way. We never limit public comment. So to me, it's how we practice, but it's a safeguard to say this should be in because there's been legal cases on the issue. That's how I interpret it. To trust the experts that deal with legal issues based on board meetings, open communication, public comments. I trust those experts to kind of instruct us, legal counsel, to say, you should add this, it's from the Brown Act. That's my feeling on it. But I still know we practice, everyone has a chance to speak publicly, we always give everyone their opportunity, we always extend the time. I stand by that.
So that, and you're right, that is our practice, so shouldn't that be what we say in the bylaw?
But we do.
No, it's much more limited.
First sentence.
Then,
the first sentence says, the agenda shall provide members of the public the opportunity to address the board on any agenda item before or during the board's consideration of the item. That's us.
right.
That.
But then we say that, okay, now I'm going down to agenda preparation.
Okay, which, right,
Last
first-
paragraph
last
on that
paragraph.
page. Any board member or member of the public may request that a matter within the jurisdiction of the board when the.
Okay, so that's agenda prep and the top is public comment.
Right.
So two
But
different
what-
areas.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But what the law says though about agenda prep or agenda is provide an opportunity for members of the public to directly address the governing board on any item of interest to the public that is within subject matter jurisdiction of the governing board. It doesn't say, directly related, this one should say directly related to school district business. The request part, the part.
So agenda preparation or a public comment? I sort of lost the connection.
Okay, public comment should be,
so are your notes from someone
These are
you?
different than the actual questions that appeared in the minutes, and that, what I was
Yeah.
asking is what the things that you referenced at the last meeting, if you felt that they had been clarified, because I know that there was one decision at the close of the last meeting that we put, the one statement that had been
Division
moved,
and-
we put it back in. And so that's all I was, this is a new concern.
well, I think this isn't, I think we've mixed things up here. I think that when the public, places matters on the agenda, it says directly related to school business. When the public can speak, it says, within the subject matter jurisdiction of the governing board. So it's kind of opposite of the way we wrote it.
Members of the public have the opportunity to address the board on any agenda item. Before, I'm on the second paragraph of agenda content. There, to address the board on any, so that's public comment. Agenda preparation goes down into the next section,
Which is different.
which is different.
Are you
It feels
referring
like
to
you're
the?
conflating the two areas a
Well,
little
there
bit.
is the next paragraph,
Okay.
and it does say items not on the agenda but within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board.
Are you on
The next page?
Next
No,
page?
the next paragraph after the one you
Okay.
asked. Although we don't, that hasn't really been an issue here. I mean, we ask for public comment on items on the agenda. We don't have much of that as far as
Are you-
something that's totally.
this one right here?
No, previous page. Third paragraph, third paragraph from the top. Yes, yes.
Oh, well that's, isn't
Yeah.
that the speaking on a non-agenda
Yes.
item?
Yeah, that's the non-agenda.
But we don't qualify people and say, no, that isn't part of our business and send them away. I
Oh,
don't.
is that a paragraph you're having an issue with, this third one?
Right, no, we don't do that, but it's,
Right. So you have an objection that it says subject matter jurisdiction.
yeah. And
I-
for requesting that a matter be placed on the agenda, it should say
But
directly
that's,
related
but
to
that's
school
speaking,
district.
that's speaking about an item.
Yeah, so
That's not requesting.
on the top, if we can stay with like when they're speaking to us, and then down here when we're creating it. Those are separate things.
Well, then on the next page, we get into, including both of those within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and directly related to school district business. I'm just, instead of, that one should just be directly related to school district business.
Should we table this?
Yeah, I think we should
Meeting
table it
and
to have a
ask
longer
Steve to bring
conversation.
in-
Well, I don't know when we would have a conversation
We'd have
on
to
the
do it at a
bylaws if
workshop.
we
Well,
don't do it here.
Well, because she has a bunch of information she's referencing, and it would be better if we all
I need to see that.
I'm looking to make it match our ed code.
It's just it's a brown act.
I'm looking to make it match our ed code because I think it's confusing if we combine the speaking to the public and putting items on the agenda.
And I would suggest that we take this back to our next policy workshop, because that would be the opportunity for 5 members to discuss it. We can't, if we don't do it here in this meeting, and we would then need any information that you're referencing,
Okay.
so that all board members are looking at the same thing.
And possibly have legal counsel to make sure we're
I'm not confused by this, so
Okay.
I don't, I'm having a hard time understanding where the confusion lies. So we can
Okay,
get,
I'll get that.
do we need a motion to take?
Your information to us in a deeper read for us, I think is more valuable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a
One of
motion
this
for
person.
days on the floor,
Yeah.
so we're going to need to
So,
redo the motion,
Okay.
have a friendly amendment to separate them.
okay,
Okay.
so 9310 will be on the floor.
So we're going to,
A motion,
Okay,
so
we-
for 9310, what do we have to?
so Randy can remove it from the table on the one, and it needs a second,
Okay.
and it's not debatable.
You're not removing it from the table because it's not on the table, you're gonna table it.
So we're going to we're only taking one of them, right, so
Vote on the first one.
first, okay.
So
So the first one we need to vote on just by
So
itself.
we need a motion.
9310, you made a friendly amendment
To
just to vote only on 9310.
Okay, now, we discussed 93.
That was passed by, because it was fine.
Okay,
I
so
don't
we're
think
fine
anyone had
with that.
discussion.
All right, then we will ask for a
Fine,
student
yeah.
vote on 9310.
Yes.
I'm fine with that.
Board vote on 9310. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. And now we need, I think, a tabling motion, correct? Or just a motion to bring 9322 back to our next policy workshop? So we need a motion, not a table, just a motion to bring that back to policy workshop.
Motion to bring it.
So moved.
Okay, Jim moves second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Student vote? Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
No. Carries 4-1.
You're all with it now?
Yes.
Yeah, we can just pass it and get back over time.
That's okay. So we can move to action item 25, board bylaws first read, that we, on censure of individual board members. We brought this back because we wanted Dr. Kelly to be here when we had our first read on this item. And this, are we just presenting this ourselves? It's our bylaw. Okay, so any public comment on this item? Any board questions? You have a motion?
So moved.
Peggy moves a second. Is there a second, Dr. Kelly seconds. For discussion.
So I'm gonna discuss, I'm not interested in adopting this bylaw. It's non-binding. I think I would personally like to focus more on our protocol meeting, the Aspen group, creating standards and protocol for us as a group. This doesn't have much teeth to it, I'm just not, for me, I'm of no interest in that. You all are majority, so.
Can you tell me where this came from? Is this another thing recommended by?
First, Carol submitted something, then Dee brought it to a meeting, a printed out copy, passed it around to us, and asked that we consider it. So that's what
Yeah, that's brought by
That's
board
what-
member Norman did, and
Well,
then
did
I
you brought it to
redid,
the
no, I
meeting?
redid not, it wasn't the same one that she brought that I brought.
Oh,
Oh,
no, but
you
the first
redid,
one, I didn't really, I just asked, is there anything like this? And
And
because
it's
on
in
a
Clubhouse.
national,
It
you know,
is
the
in
national
Clubhouse.
level,
Because I
I was
thought it
curious.
should, if we were gonna do something, like you said, Peggy, it should have more meat to it.
But actually, that's the genesis, I mean, it was member Perry that asked that we consider it. Whichever
This
copy
is-
it was,
this one's-
whichever copy it was, as a side note, it's
Yeah.
that's,
I wasn't for it, I thought if it was gonna go, it should at least
well,
have,
then that was,
it should at least have, some meat to
the
it.
interpretation when it was passed out was that it was a request to consider, so if that wasn't correct, then.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
Whichever other one had to it. That's the one I brought in, we just let that one go and move this one. Okay, well, we can bring the other one back.
Well,
Should we
then,
table
then
this?
you need to really have, then you really need to have due process in it, which it didn't have.
There is due process in this, as far as my understanding, there was a.
Their understanding where the due process is.
Number 5, upon the reduction and the board member who is the subject of said censure motion shall be provided the opportunity to explain their action statement or other conduct, to apologize therefore, and to agree to future compliance with all relevant and applicable statutes, regulations, laws, and board policies and administrative regulations. So that would be what you're asking for.
Well, I think,
Because there is nothing that happens from this other than a statement.
right,
So that would
So,
be the
but that-
would be
that
the
person-
answering statement.
can only explain, not disprove an allegedly improper action, and then they're supposed to apologize and plead for leniency. So
I don't see the plea for leniency.
there's no equal protection of the law, both parties
But
should
there's-
have an opportunity to be heard.
But this
and
isn't,
present evidence.
this isn't a legal setting, there is nothing that happens beyond that, there's no plea for leniency. It's a statement made and a statement made back, which is exactly what you're referencing. The statement made back would say, that didn't happen. Right.
Can I move the question, vote?
Well,
Is there a second?
But I don't think this really represents our community's values and sense of justice. That one person, I mean, it's really, it seems like a way to silence the minority.
I don't think that's what it is at all, but then
I think it's more about accountability, that each of us, every one of us has accountability to follow process, procedure, bylaws. But I still
But there are
do not support it.
consequences if you don't. Except.
Well, actually,
The consequence is
if you
just,
get into the issues of if you put the district at risk, that's a consequence for the school district. So that becomes a bigger issue.
So are we voting?
No, not yet.
Well,
I called the question.
You have to, he called the question and
I
seconded it.
seconded
Oh, you seconded it?
I did, so I don't think you heard me,
I didn't
sorry.
hear it as a second.
I'm pretty loud, but I wasn't.
Okay,
Second.
then we need to vote on that. Student vote?
what are we voting on?
We're voting that they made a tabling motion with a second, and I mean
No,
close,
just to call the question.
call the question, it's a close the debate, right?
Close the debate.
This is the move the question or the call the
And
question.
the motion was to vote on this as is.
We're closing the debate.
As a first
It's a movement to close
Yes,
the
that's the
debate.
first.
Oh, we're gonna vote on whether we're closing the debate?
Yes,
Oh,
that's all,
sorry.
that's a motion and a second on the floor. Student rep has voted yes, so now we need to vote.
That,
Or you say no.
yes.
Aye, in favor of closing the debate, yes.
Aye.
Aye. There are three aye, are you clear? You voting?
Yeah, to close the debate.
Did you vote yes?
Oh, to close the debate?
Yes.
You don't have to vote yes, Carol. She's like, when are we gonna bring it back up again? It's the only time we meet. No.
It's 4-1.
4-1. Oh, actually, I'm voting against also, so it's
It's
3-2. But can I add that we bring this back again to the policy workshop? Because Carol is referencing that she would have brought the one, she felt there was another one that was more ethical. So we can do that.
I can bring it up again.
That's true.
Separately.
So
But
we
we-
had
but
at the table.
You currently have a motion on the floor to
Then we
approve
should.
it.
Right,
And then
I
you,
voted down
you only call the question.
No, we
You
just
only
voted the
voted-
question.
So they
to
closed,
close discussion.
right, closed discussion.
So you still have to take care of the first motion.
Okay, so now the motion's,
And we can't change the motion now.
I know.
Then we can vote it down, if
You can vote it down.
you can vote it down and then bring it back as a, for the policy.
So now we
workshop.
have to vote,
Yeah.
Okay, so this is now, your other vote was to close the debate, now we're voting on the motion on the floor.
Yes, to approve this for next reading.
Yes,
Well,
because this is the
Is the
first
motion
reading.
is
Oh, so this is first reading, so this
Yeah,
was,
that's what we were having a discussion, it's the first time to discuss it, because we've been waiting for everybody to be here.
so
And it's
I'm in favor with the students. Is
So,
everybody else in
just to be
favor?
clear, so we're we're passing it as a first reading?
Right, that's what I'm voting for.
Okay, so all you really wanted was to close the debate, you weren't opposed to this particular policy.
No, that's,
Okay. So
I just thought we were going in circles and that,
yes, we're going in circles.
and we had something written.
I'm just not sure that bringing it for a second reading, rather than taking it back to policy workshop, is the direction that we wanna go. Because I don't
No,
know
we
that,
can't debate it.
I don't know that we will get anywhere
I
other
changed my
than,
vote to no.
other than where we just got now, if we don't take it to policy workshop where we have legal advice and
So,
we can maybe make more progress.
so
I agree.
we're voting now, right? No.
Okay, so we're all gonna vote?
No.
We're not all, yes, well,
The
They
vote
vote
is
first.
to bring it as a second reading, so. Still say yes, okay.
you can say no.
Board members,
No,
I'm no.
no,
No, because we're gonna bring it back to the
so it.
workshop.
that was easy.
Hold on.
Not really.
Change your votes now.
Oh.
No response.
We'll move to action item 26. Agreement for web services with Active Internet Technologies. Doing business at Spinal Site for website development and upgrade at a cost not to exceed $15,000. Mike, yes, you've been waiting.
Yeah, patiently, in the hallway.
Thanks, President Victor, members of the board. Thanks for considering this. This is a proposal we've had our website for about 5 years and there's been a lot of changes. One of the changes was that we have about 40% of people accessing it mobily. So we want to make that better, that interface better. Also, better integration of social media into the website and better accessibility for people that have issues viewing it. Also, this proposal will allow us to upgrade to their latest content management system, which is the back end for updating the pages. So that's why we would like to redesign it.
And mobile means with the device, right?
Yeah, like a tablet or a phone.
Okay. aye. Any public comment? No questions? Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Dr. Kelly and Peggy, any discussion?
It seems very cheap.
That's what it is.
There's another item
Piece is the proposal.
This is piece one.
He does get, but he does get discounts. Mike
Yes.
finds the
I still think
value.
it's cheap.
It is.
Okay.
Well, that's the credit, he finds the values and the discounts.
Yeah, and one of the reasons they're discounting is because they use this as an example, and our template is used by other districts like Saddleback.
See, that's what we mean. Any other discussion? Student vote? Yes. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries 5-0. This was a lot easier, isn't it? Action items 27, approval agreement with Active Internet Technologies, doing business as Final Site for district website hosting and accessibility tool at a cost not to exceed $25,800.
So this is a little bit of an increase from the last 5 years because of the accessibility tool called the Audio Eye, which allows you to, it'll read the page to you. So everything on the page, including graphics, it's kind of a neat tool. So that's one of the reasons why this is a little bit more pricey than the last 5 years. We think it's worth doing, and it's the hosting. And their hosting's been very good. We've had 2 downtimes the first year, and that were a little bit longer than I would like. And then since then, we've had very few, just a few glitches, but nothing major as far as downtime.
Public comment? Any more questions?
Is it a new tool or how often is the tool used?
It's relatively new on the market. I haven't seen any, I know other districts are using it, but I haven't, Final Sight's told us that other districts are using it, but I think it's gonna be a good tool because it will comply with a lot of the requirements that are out for the Disabilities Act, and there's several standards that it hits that will make our pages comply automatically. So without doing a ton of back-end work.
Right. Remember when that passed, how was everyone gonna keep up with the accountability, right, you're talking about, okay.
Any other questions? Motion?
We have a comment.
Oh, yeah, after the.
So moved.
Second. Peggy and now discussion.
I think it's great. I think especially with the ADA stuff, I think, what a deal we've done.
Any other discussion? Student vote?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Action item 28, award contract for Best Contracting Services, Inc. for the 2019 roofing replacements at various sites project in an amount not to exceed $478,720. Mr. Dixon.
And to your point, Dr. Kelly, it's not cheap.
It already rained, and if we didn't have a lake, why do we need new roofs?
Then we need to protect all that great new technology that we're putting in the buildings.
Sorry.
On March 28, 2018, we opened bids. They ranged from $387,000 to about $737,000. The apparent low bidder at the time had made a clerical error on their bid, so they withdrew it. However, the second apparent lowest responsible bidder that's contracting was still within budget based on their 10-year facility master plan, had a cost of $478,720. As we do every summer, we like to tackle these roofing projects, but one thing that we do a little unique here is we buy the materials direct and then supply them to our contractors, so they'll pay the markup, and we buy those from California Multiple Award Schedule. So when you include the material costs with this labor cost of the bid, the total project comes out at $716,126. We're working on 2 school sites, Elmore and Laguna Beach High School. One of the projects has to do with Laguna Beach High School pool, which we will share the cost with the city for our joint use agreement. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions. You guys have the word.
Public comment?
Over the pool.
Building.
Full building, I should have clarified.
There's a couple neighbors that would like to be covered.
Yes.
Close in the building, but that's okay. Any other, I asked for public comment, board questions? Okay, motion.
Second.
Carol, Peggy, any discussion? Thank you. Super. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries 5-0. And our last agenda item, board member requests for items for future meetings, requests for information, or general comments. Do our student reps have anything in that category, student reps? Last item. No request, okay, thank you. Board members,
I'd like there to be an agenda item on the WASC accreditation or as a presentation to the board
presentation?
or community.
okay.
That's nice for the community to see that.
Yeah, it's such a great thing and I don't think we have been celebrating it enough.
And then, as I was going to ask before we changed that on 9322, I wanted to, based on what Dr. Kelly's asking, that we add something in there so that we know that we can request for items to go on the agenda, fit the timeline of what's coming up, how stacked the meeting already is, and so that we don't have that in the policy, but obviously we didn't get to that tonight. My paragraph was way down the list. So I'm assuming that you're agreeable to where it fits.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Dee?
I had a few comments. I wanted to just celebrate the El Moro PTA, TOW PTA. Not sure if you saw how much money they raised at their drawing-a-thons. Utterly impressive. And I also know there's a lot of parents behind the scenes, so I wanted to thank everyone as a proud PTA mom of 16 years. I love a good PTA parent. They step it up and do good work. I also want to take the time to thank Dr. Allman and his team for working on the bell schedule. No matter what the change, I hope that we can be adaptable and be positive about change that's good for kids. I know I'm game, I'm a high school parent, and I'm ready to try something that will benefit our students. Even if it's a change in my life, I think I can manage it. And my last final issue is we have a lot of public records requests right now. They're coming to all the board members in different facets, and I completely support this idea because when you're elected to this board, you agree to be transparent and for your information, email communication to be public. As of late, people have requested I have to review my own personal emails, and I have every time gone through my personal emails as well as my district emails to meet the request, and I've also signed the affidavit stating that I have met that request. I would hope that every board member supports that transparency. I also believe that we should put the public records requests online. It's not a board decision, it's an administrative decision, but I think that just shows our transparency and our willingness to share our information, that nothing is going on behind the scenes secretly, that we practice our roles very seriously and take our job seriously. So that's my position.
Like Kevin's here, I get to say ditto, because people are begging, but you know that, and then I wanted to add to that one on the bell schedule, thank you, Dr. Allman, and thank you for bringing thought exchange, Dr. Gloria, because if we did it all with a thought exchange and we just ended up with a cookie cutter that someone else has already created, I would have been slightly disappointed, not that I would have said a word about it or anything, but I would have been slightly disappointed, and even though that's a very challenging schedule, I think our kids are up for tasks on challenges, and I think that you really looked at what's best practices, the teachers really kudos. This is a stretch for them to do as well. It's a lot more work for them, and the fact that they really embraced what's best for the kids. Kudos for doing something that wasn't just a cookie cutter. Really appreciate it. And apologize in advance on behalf of all of us. When we get cranky, we might reach out and be frustrated with the challenge. So that comes to you. I got to walk El Moro, which I think I have now been at El Moro more than I've been at any other school site this year. But I got to walk with Dr. Gloria, and it was wonderful, one, to see the relationships that you have with the staff. They're genuine, they're responsive to you. The kids know who you are. That's fun. And then Mr. Gunny, to see you interacting with students and supporting them in ways that supports the whole school, and really looking for those opportunities to be able to do that. It was impressive. The engagement of the students a week before spring break was ridiculously high for elementary school kids. That was probably the thing I walked away with more, was just like spring break, and these kids are engaged in it. And we both were asking them about things they love. They all love Gigi, the new math software. It was really the thing they talked about. And I was really humbled to see the amazing science class. I don't think I've actually seen that science class happening there. And I just think of science teachers and, they're gonna be ready and excited for these kids coming, and got to see coding. It was wonderful to walk in school sites and remember why we're here and what we're doing, and then kind of leave the adult conversation into the student conversation. And then one last thing I just wanted to mention was, Brene, it's like Renee with a B, I'm saying it right, it's Brene Brown.
Brene Brown.
Brene Brown. Brene,
Yeah.
right. And so she does that great vulnerability conversation, and really about the fact that courage happens within vulnerability. And I know that this is a vulnerable place for most of us, even if we become accustomed to sitting in it, it's still a vulnerable space, and also for everyone who comes and speaks. And I know we can't speak wherever the speakers come and they're gone now, but it really is a vulnerable space, and I so appreciate that they stepped into that to say courageously what they want to say and share. And I know they're not here, they probably don't believe, they really shift our viewpoints and thoughts and how we ask Dr. Gloria what he looks at. And it's just really important that they come speak and honor that space that they enter, because we know it's not comfortable for them anymore. Or it's comfortable for us sometimes to sit here, but and it's nice to see smiles. So, that was really a wonderful group tonight.
I just wanted, what Peggy said, I think it's really incumbent upon us, the 5 board members, because we've heard this for a number of years, but also particularly in recently, that we use our district Gmail accounts, and that's the best thing we can do, because then when those requests come in, that then if we have private accounts and we use those, that then we're not responsible to search those and find things if we had used those for communications regarding district business. And so that really simplifies it and makes it a lot easier all the way around. But that's electronic communication can be really suspect, and so it's up to us to be responsible in how we use it. I just wanted to, actually, it was your father, and I wanted to, he's gone now, but
He's great.
the PTA presentation was outstanding. And I think, I hope the parents that were there shared it with other parents. And he particularly was strong on the increase and the dangers with vaping.
Yeah.
Which I think is eye-opening to a lot of parents that were there, and also on pills and where they get the pills. And what I found, so oftentimes these presentations don't have the genuineness that he communicated to the parents, is that they need to own the responsibility of how they attempt to protect their students, and that students are getting so much in their own home, and that the responsibility lies with the parents. I mean, he was, if I remember correctly, pretty clear about lock it up.
Yeah.
And that's also the alcohol. I mean, it's really the parent responsibility, and I think for some of the parents sitting there, that might have been a message that definitely they really needed to hear. But it was a very, very good presentation, and I've heard a lot of them, so it's great. And he knew that you were pleased that he was there, and that was great. So, that's all that I had. I just I want to say I appreciate, there is a lot of staff work that goes in public records requests. And I do know that a lot of them now it's a little bit of game playing that, and that's unfortunate, because they really should be, if there's a sincere desire to find out if the district is not being transparent. And this has gone way beyond that, and I know that Lisa Winston is inundated, and I think that it's, I'm not sure people will realize how much time it takes away from all the other work that needs to be done. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that it will level off now. I'm announcing the next meeting. Thank you. Mr. Ward saying, we're done. Cut it off.
Nice job, Victoria.
The next regular board meeting is scheduled for May 14th, here in the boardroom at 6 p.m. There's a special board meeting at Monday, May 13th at 8 a.m. for the superintendent's evaluation session. So I have a motion to adjourn. So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's do the vote.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.